Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 11th episode of Shout of Nostalgia Season 2, where we are doing that deep drive down to 1995 ECFW. Yeah, I'm good old Mike Belcaster. You know the drill. I'm not going to sit here and chill. Joining me, as always, my good old partner in crime, the one and only.
Live from the No Sales Studios, it's the Ace of the Tavern, ACEFIELD Retro, and like Mike Belcaster mentioned, it is the last episode of our journey through ECW 1995, and what a ride it's been. The DeLorean's pulling into the station, but don't worry, guys, we're going to be fueling up just next week. We'll get into all the shilling for that. WWF 1998, we have a lot of people that want to hop on board for. We may have some special guests. It's a longer journey than this one. This is one of those shorter seasons that it was a blast. I mean, it feels like we got through a lot of information, but it was so compact. We're going to get back to what made season one even special, where we stretched it out, get in, strapping for the long haul. I think we're going to get through most of the summer with this next season. So you and I are going to be really locked into WWF 1998.
Dude, I cannot wait. 98 is one of the hottest years for professional wrestling in general, let alone WWF. I'm super, super excited. But nonetheless, we can't take away from the season 2 we had. It was such a beautiful, beautiful experience going down, reliving these huge moments. Big debuts in ECW. Steve Austin, Taz coming into his fruition as Taz. I mean, we got Bubba Ray Dudley. We got it. Oh man, it was so damn good. Everything from, like I said, Bubba Ray Dudley to Joel Gertner doing his ring announcing. It's just the best of the best. So beautiful, so amazing. Couldn't have been happier to go through this journey with you, as always, my friend.
Yeah, man, it's been a blast, and I want to thank everybody for the positive feedback, especially this was our first season on audio drop only, and we didn't know how it would be received because this is usually a visual show where you and I pop on here. We have the cool graphics that Chad is so amazingly made for us, so the audio really translated well, and it got a lot of good feedback and conversation that people were like, I usually wouldn't be able to listen to the video shows, but I was able to pop on 2 hours every week consistently on a Saturday morning and listen to you guys talk about retro wrestling. And that's the point, building context and building an awareness of history does repeat itself. And we want to pay homage to, you know, the past, but also look forward to the future with eyes and knowledge and understanding that, you know, sometimes we learn from the past.
Yeah, 100%, man. Couldn't have said it any better myself. I know that's a statement that goes on throughout the show always, because you are a wordsmith of wordsmith. But goddamn, am I looking forward to today. We are going through ECW December to Dismember. It was not just the WWE pay-per-view, ladies and gentlemen. Shake your boots. They actually lived it on until they got the Elimination Chamber match. And we also got Holiday Hell 1995. I can't wait, man. It's going to be a blast. You guys are looking forward to probably some of the best ECW content to this day. I thought the show was amazing. I thought it was fantastic, man.
Yeah, and the thing is, this is one of those episodes that we thought we would have standalone episodes. So December to Dismember and Holiday Hell, similar to WrestlePalooza a few episodes ago. We sat here when we were planning and we were hoping, all right, it's gonna be 13 episodes, but with the idea of time and an understanding of content and knowing both of us can really fit it in, we're like, you know what? Let's put it into one episode, and there's going to be a lot of meat on the bone for this one. We're going to get into Happy Hour, build the context starting November 27th with Dave Meltzer's newsletter, and he's going to take us all the way to the end of the year and getting ready for 1996. We won't join you there, but you might be able to go to ECW 1996 if you'd like to. Let's get into
and listen, you never know when we might rejoin this bandwagon we've been on. Never say never. It's wrestling, brothers.
Yep, and Dave Meltzer is going to lead us through the happy hour. Grab your drinks, and let's get buzzed for this.
Dusty will forever be profound in our hearts, man.
It just occurred to me, if you're listening to this audio only, happy Royal Rumble Saturday. And if you're listening to this Friday, there is also, it's Royal Rumble Eve. So I'm rocking my El Generico shirt, hoping that Sami Zayn gets an unlikely victory and they go with the groundswell of fan support instead of just what was written in the stars when Cody Rhodes returned. I'm hoping so badly that Sami Zayn wins, but I think my prediction, Mike Belcaster, it's Cody Rhodes, right?
I mean, we did the debate. We recorded it Wednesday for you guys listening on Friday, for you guys listening on Saturday. We talked very, very distinctly about who we think will win the Royal Rumble. I had to go Cody Rhodes. As much as I want Sami Zayn, I think it would be brilliant. Sami Zayn is that poster for, the chair for Elimination Chamber, as we've seen the leaks. Do I want Sami to win? I would love Sami to win, but my money is doubled down on Cody Rhodes, man.
Well, let's get into that good brother Oos, Dave Meltzer, and let's talk about the November 27th newsletter. And we're going to go over to Connecticut and talk about what happens over there. And Diesel had just won the WWF title, and he appeared to have been booed by 65 to 70% of the fans after the match. And the announcers, Vince McMahon and Jim Ross, played it up as if it was a heel turn. The new character and the new attitude of the promotion was set up by Diesel's mouthing motherfucker when he lost the title. So it appears they believe the ECW approach, or at least a toned down version, is now the marketable approach in this country, which is funny on a lot of levels. So reason I popped this in here, obviously they mention ECW by name, but it is a changing of the guard with Diesel winning the championship. And that has its own little era. People remember when Diesel won the championship. WWF feels a certain way when he was champion. Everyone that watched wrestling in 1995 and watched WWF, they know exactly how WWF was feeling in 1995. And Diesel winning the title, I don't know. This has a certain low point, and I love Kevin Nash, but I just feel like that was a low point in my fandom of watching wrestling. Anyway, the ECW approach with the attitude, that was the main thing I pulled out of here. And you have a lot of the budding seeds of the attitude era, even though it's just mouthing a curse on air, that is sort of the starting point of where they're going to go to the full extreme where, we're getting Miss Kitty's boobies on TV and we're getting Stone Cold flipping off people and drinking beer. So I guess, what are your thoughts on that?
You know what? It's interesting that it started with such a nonchalant little passover move, like that, just Diesel saying "motherfucker," not in a microphone, it was just to the camera. Very, very cool. I'm glad they're taking the turn. They desperately need it. But I'll be one of the guys that's going to take the bold standpoint. I think Diesel's title run was important for the structure of what the Attitude Era became. And he might have been one of the lowest rated champions of all time, but I think it was very prominent of the steps that they were taking to move towards this more aggressive, more attitude-y vibe that they eventually strike lightning with. And Diesel was just kind of thrown into the beginning of it. Very, very important shit, man.
Yeah, and it seemed as if, not to go off on a tangent about Diesel, but I personally, and especially watching WCW 1996 with you, love Kevin Nash when he's tapping into that persona and in the charisma that he's able to so naturally have. And it felt like when you go back and watch Diesel, they weren't allowing him to be that because WWF was still stuck in that profession, very gimmick-oriented guys, and Diesel being, coming out to the truck driver music, and he is, whether they're pretending he's an actual truck or not, or whatever it is, it's very gimmicky. And I think there were moments similar to this where Diesel's mouthing curse words, motherfucker, on air.
Yeah.
That he shines through. But for the most part, that run to me as him as champion, it felt like that was WWF at its worst. It's not his fault. I mean, I'm going back to the Smoking Guns and the Body Donnas and that whole goddamn roster in 95. WWF was it was horrible at that point.
Yeah, and a lot of people stick to it. I seen a tweet today from Email J, our beautiful, lovely ring announcer homie from GCW, and he said 95 WWF will always be his favorite moment in wrestling. And I was like, why? Maybe one of the only times I've disagreed with the gentleman. But listen, it was still it was a stepping stone to where we became this huge entity that WWF, WWE became, and it's still part of history. I think it's a very important part of history.
Well, let's go to WWF again, and we have our good friends, the Public Enemy, working a WWF dark match, losing to the aforementioned Smoking Guns in a non-title match. So Dave Meltzer said he called Public Enemy, and they called him Public Enemy, I should say, on TV, the announcers. So we didn't know if they would be able to use the name. Obviously, in WCW, they were using the Public Enemy entity and all that trademark. It was described to us as an unimpressive, almost squash-like warm-up match. They got a great reaction by the ECW fans at the show, but most of the fans didn't react to them nor know who they were. The reports we have, according to Dave Meltzer, are that this deal was put together almost at the last minute, but it was a one-shot deal and not a sign they'd make a decision to go to WWF. From what we're standing now, and we do know they eventually go to WCW, that's where they were leaning at this point, and the final decision should be made this week. Heyman is still trying to keep them with ECW, and Heyman, who was also involved with putting the deal together for them to work the WWF show, said he believed they weren't going to WWF and that they would be going to WCW or staying in ECW. We do know eventually they do go to WCW because we catch up to them, WCW 96. But this one-off match here, unimpressive, sign of things to come. WWF didn't give up on them, though. They had them right after WCW.
Yeah, no, listen, it was cool. I was happy that they made their run, especially after us covering this year of 95. I mean, they really earned it. They were a staple of what 95 ECW was. I think they headlined more shows than most of their actual world champions have. So very cool to see, but I wish we would have gotten a little bit more of the ECW Public Enemy than we did, in both companies. I think they kind of watered them down and they became the table guys, and it kind of sucked the fun away from it all.
Speaking of table guys, Sabu, as we know last week, we talked about him returning to the ECW arena in an unannounced match, beating Hack Buyers in a move that has a number of political ramifications. So this is the first time we're hearing it mentioned in the newsletter because it's obviously a week removed. And according to Heyman, Sabu and Heyman reached a deal on November 1st for Sabu to appear on the 11/18 show, but Heyman wanted to keep it as a surprise. The two agreed for Sabu to work only the one show, which at press time is all they have been officially agreed to, and there's obviously a good chance Sabu will be back as a regular. It's funny because now going back and looking at the other reports in the newsletter, Paul Heyman is definitely putting out these red herrings of he's not coming back. I don't believe he's ever coming back. And now it certainly feels like he was working, but he was just muddying the water so people were more surprised. And he created that moment where people were absolutely shocked. Even the smart fans for ECW didn't know he was coming back, and they were surprised. And I guess that makes for a really good moment for those fans.
Listen, man, wrestling is all about big moments. The Sabu thing was a big moment. I applaud Paul Heyman for doing that. I think it's brilliant, and we see it a lot more nowadays. I mean, even with the CM Punk shit that's going on, like, he might be fired, he might not be fired, but like all signs point to he's still under contract. So good to see Paul work the fans. It was a brilliant move at the time, and I think it really made the moment even bigger than it should have been.
So where we left off with Sabu was him in WCW, and we didn't know why. You and I knew he wouldn't work out there. And even in 95, I think everybody probably could realize that Sabu wouldn't be a good fit for what WCW was doing in 1995 and even what they were doing in 96. He just didn't fit their aesthetic. But we got some word about why it didn't work out. WCW had been upset with Sabu for numerous reasons, such as him brawling out of the ring more than they wanted him to and going longer than scheduled in some TV matches. In addition, the Sheik wasn't supposed to throw fire at the pay-per-view show, and it caught everybody at WCW by surprise. Sabu himself was unhappy at being a mid-card performer, and those in WWF say he insisted on not having his weight announced because of the belief if he was categorized as a junior heavyweight, he couldn't work on top. All right, so before we move ahead more about what the issues were in WCW, thoughts on that? I mean, Sabu booked as a mid-carder, not being able to brawl outside, it's like, why would you get Sabu if you won't allow him to do what he does well?
100%. And I love the fact that he was like, don't even announce my weight. Like, get the fuck out of your head. I want to be the big guy. And he should have been the big guy. He was a big deal. He was great. One of the most underrated workers of this time frame. I mean, we didn't see him get his flowers technically until like 2007 WWF or WWE at the time. I mean, it's crazy, man. But yeah, I mean, it's a shitty thing to hire somebody, much like they would have, Public Enemy, just throw the table gimmick on him. Like Sabu is a brawler. Sabu is a guy that brings the chair and doesn't necessarily utilize it against his opponent, but utilizes it for a step above his opponent to do crazier, more aerobatic shit. And yeah, man, I'm all here for Sabu, no matter what company he's working for.
So this is a crazy story too about how he found out he was fired. So WCW wrestlers are allowed to work indie dates. That's sort of the allure of working in WCW at the time. WWF wasn't allowing their guys to work indie shots. So Sabu took the ECW date, particularly since it was kept a secret from WCW management. He put himself in a tenuous position. If he would have asked for it, I'm sure they would have allowed him to, but the fact that he didn't already got people angry. So Sabu had left for Japan in a touring session at press time and wasn't able to be reached. He had told another reporter before leaving that he had called up Bischoff on 11/20, and Bischoff told him he was too busy to talk with him. He said he then watched Nitro and heard Eric Bischoff on commentary talk about a wrestler who's no longer with the company and to call the WCW hotline to find out who it was. So guess what? Sabu pops in the number on his phone, called the line, and Mike Tenay's message, and that's how he found out he was fired. So
crazy.
I believe the story because obviously we hear about Stone Cold being fired over the phone, and this is worse. Like Sabu wasn't even called. He didn't get a fax paper. He had to find out the same way fans were finding out, which is insanity.
Yeah, no, you call the hotline, man. You never know what you're going to get.
So on the hotline, continuing, Tenay talked about how the Sabu situation and speculated Sabu may be in trouble with the company. But Sabu, when he was listening to this, he hadn't been told anything at that point. So it had been reported elsewhere that Sabu had quit WCW. Nobody in WCW was aware of the fact, nor was Sabu, although many were aware of the tension between the two sides and thought a split was inevitable. So then he was still booked and advertised for both the Battle Royal on 11/26 and also was scheduled to face Eddie Guerrero on 12/11 Nitro from Charlotte. However, he wasn't going to make the date either because he's in Japan. So it's like both sides weren't ready to even do business with each other. So we're going to get into more crazy situations with that. But I guess speak to 1995 WCW and people find out they're fired over the hotline.
Yeah, no, listen, it's wild, absolutely wild. I mean, and you echoed it best. Like Stone Cold Steve Austin got a fucking FedEx truck pulling up to his house, very, very akin to CM Punk getting fired on his wedding day. We're seeing all these repetitive behaviors, but how shitty would you feel if like you called the tavern hotline and they were like, yeah, Ace is a piece of shit, man. We're not letting him out here anymore. He quit. He's doing fucking wrestling now. We can't, like, it would be ridiculous, dude. Conversation goes far, far, far away,
Stranger things have happened, but I mean, we talked about Dennis Coralluzzo a lot about if he worked the show with NWA and Dennis Coralluzzo, that was a clear indication he wasn't going to be back with ECW. And this, again, could have been a red herring by Paul Heyman that he put out there because he knew he was working that Coralluzzo show where he wrestled Devin Storm on 10/28 and they tore the house down, a.k.a. Crowbar, great match. So now that is a big piece to this because according to Coralluzzo on 11/13, Sabu had called him up and said that either the show itself had been canceled in California or that Sabu had canceled in the San Bernardino date because New Japan booked him for the week and then canceled the shows the week. And then he would fly himself to work the Camden show and pay for his hotel room. So Coralluzzo's like, okay, no problem. Do both. We'll have you on there. The two agreed. Sabu worked for less than his usual price because most of it, the local publicity had been done without Sabu's name. Since Coralluzzo had gotten the clearance from WWF to use Hakushi on the show, he figured he'd get the word around 5 days of a Sabu Hakushi match and would draw some extra fans. So then WWF, obviously, we just mentioned before, not allowing guys to work indie dates. WWF initially freaked out about a supposed WCW versus WWF matchup and put a kibosh on it, but then relented since it wants to keep good relations with all promotions. Coralluzzo then had to work a DQ finish because WWF insisted Hakushi not do a job to a WCW wrestler, and Sabu is the one Coralluzzo wanted to push. At the show, they did the angle for the future Sabu versus Devin Storm match on the Coralluzzo shows in December where they wanted to build it forward. Crazy, crazy shit because at the time, Paul Heyman still knew he was coming back. So everybody was like pawns in this game. So Sabu, Heyman working together, and you have these two promotions working together to, I mean, at this point, do good business, but also have an idea about, I don't know, working collaboratively. The fact that Sabu was able to almost be in two places at once. Like you said, he was going to be allowed back if he worked that show. He worked that show and then some, and you still brought him back.
100%, man. And I mean, that's the best part of wrestling is you can never say never. You never know what is going to change on the tip of the dime, you know. So it was cool. I love Sabu's hustle so damn much.
So to put an end cap on here, and people are asking, why did Paul Heyman allow him to work that date, and why did he actually want him to work the date? He had said, I have no problem with him working in, and I actually like the idea because it would explain to ECW fans who saw Sabu at the hotel why he was in town that weekend. He said that if any of the fans knew Sabu was going to work the ECW show, he'd had canceled the booking and told Sabu not to tell anyone. However, word of Sabu doing the ECW date started spreading on 11/11. By midweek, it had become a strong rumor in wrestling and was reported on the Observer hotline. It would most likely happen. When Heyman talked about the surprise in the ring, there were chants for Sabu before he even showed up. Again, smart fans. Some of them probably were wishful thinking. Anytime he was coming out making an announcement, it feels like that's the moment for Sabu because that's Heyman's moment in the ring, 1995, talking about Sabu leaving. Just wild, man. I mean, playing these games and Heyman's playing 4D chess while everybody else is playing checkers, man. He's out there like making moves to really make his promotion better and have making the most out of what he had. Because at the time, they're still not doing great financially. Yeah. And he's still making the most out of it.
Listen, man, I think that's what really helped put them on the map was these aggressive moves. Heyman was this very smart businessman, no matter what. And he played his cards right. I loved the Sabu debut. I don't think that took away from anything. I thought it was amazing. The lights out, you know, Paul talking beforehand. He cut the lights. Sabu's in the ring doing the point. How much better would you want a re-debut to happen? It was perfect. Heyman is a smart man.
So the final number on some of the money that Sabu was getting, and Heyman never confirmed this, but Sabu apparently told Coraluzzo he asked Heyman for $2,000 per shot for the future. Heyman had agreed to the price, which Heyman also refused to comment on. So $2,000 per match, that's pretty good in 1995.
Yeah, no, listen, that's a working man's work and pay 100%.
And that, I mean, that grind right there was all created the buzz through Sabu. And there was a situation there where he wanted to please two masters with the fact he wanted to work New Japan. He wanted to keep those guys happy. And that's the situation. When you go back to three-way dance, that was the core of his issues. He was trying to figure out who would be more forgiving if I fucked them over. And he probably sat there and said, you know what? Paul Heyman, my relationship with him is a little bit more cordial and flexible. Yeah, he'll be mad now. And it worked out in his favor because I don't think he'd be back in New Japan if he would have did that to them because you know what? The opportunity in Japan presented itself. The bookers wouldn't bring him back. Paul Heyman did. Sabu won.
Yeah, 1,000%.
All right, so let's go with this story here from the Connecticut Post. This was a really big deal. They ran a front page story in the newspaper on November 20th on ECW about it being a politically incorrect wrestling promotion. So the story was built around the Danbury, Connecticut show where Thomas Rodriguez brought them in as part of the grand open of his Sub-Zero nightclub. According to the story, they had nearly sold out the 500-seat venue days in advance. The article was huge with both pros and cons about ECW as an entity. And among those interviewed for the piece was Greg Zerb of the Pennsylvania State Athletic Commission. Zerb said that ECW pushes the line and have given him more than one headache, but that since Pennsylvania deregulated wrestling, there's little he could do beyond lifting the license of the promoter, and that would be no good because they would just use another license. So this article, we're going to hear more about in the next newsletter. This is a huge thing, and Paul Heyman said any press is good press. This is putting them on blast in a bad way.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it gets their name out there, and that might just attract new fans.
Listen, I mean, you're talking front page of the Connecticut Post, a very pristine, newsletter, newspaper, the Connecticut Post. So it got to the hands of the right people. I'm sure Vince seen this. You know, I'm sure a lot of the WWF side of things seen this. It was just painting light on what ECW is, and controversy always creates cash, right? So, I mean, this is a controversial article, but still very, very good press. And it's good for business.
So to end the November 27th newsletter, we have Conan officially giving his notice that it will be his last show in ECW, saying he's going to WCW, and Heyman talked with him about the idea of going to WWF because he'd be able to work ECW house show dates if he went to WWF, but Conan pretty much well committed going to WCW in January. This also too popped up where Heyman to this day denies a payroll position on the WWF roster or whatever it was back in these days when ECW was floundering. Where there's smoke, there's fire with being funded and ECW being a pipeline for talent. This sort of proves it here, and it doesn't mean to, but it does, because when he says you should work WWF, that means you can work ECW live shows. That shows back in 95. They're officially working together in a capacity, right?
They have to be. Absolutely have to be. And that's the craziest thing to kind of fall back on here. Newsletter rocks because we get to find out all this shit. But I mean, Paul Heyman just kind of proving it right there. You can work these house or these live events, not even house shows, not bullshit. It was just like live events. You can work these ECW live events if you sign with WWF. There's got to be some kind of a deal going on, whatever it is. I mean, we don't see a partnership really come together until next year, you know, so it's insane, man.
But even that's like position 2 in 96 when they come on Raw, that becomes more of a, like, it's a one-off. Like Heyman acts like it just came together overnight, but you could see that things are growing even in 95 where the relationship is there. And
yeah,
I think it truly started at King of the Ring 95. I really do. Back in June when they're in Philly and everybody's chanting for ECW, and I'm pretty sure that Vince, if we remember the newsletter, thought everybody was chanting for Savio Vega, and they're like, no, Vince, they're chanting for ECW. What's ECW? And that there, it became something that was on his mind. And I don't know if it ever truly left. ECW was like something Vince, as much as he probably wants to rip on it for being garbage wrestling in his mind, I don't know. I think he was like obsessed with it for a bit, and it cropped up again in 07.
Yeah, listen, I think Vince was not just obsessed with it. I think he's seen the ability for it to succeed outside of his bubble, and it's a rare occasion, especially for Vince, you know. So he's like, God damn, kid, yeah, bring some tables out, let's have a good time. And like, you know, it was Vince accepting that there was something else out there that could possibly do better than his own product. So he really not only partnered with them, but he sucked the life out of them like Vince McMahon does. He grabs them by the grapefruits, god damn it. And yeah, he really took what ECW was all about and made it more fan friendly, more just company friendly. I think he did a great job at it, and that's one of the big successful things that Vince has done over the years. Goddamn hell.
Well, so that brings me back to this point. I meant to bring this up on probably 10 other episodes, but when you go to Wikipedia and you see the ECW championship lineage, the title that's on there is the silver bullshit title that they had back on the ECW on Sci-Fi. Someone go on Wikipedia. Maybe I'll just do it after this.
Yeah.
Put the real picture of the ECW title back on there.
It belongs there. That is the ECW. Just because you put an ECW logo on a fucking copper penny doesn't make it the ECW title.
Well, that to me, like that subtle nuance thing of making it silver is the biggest fuck you to ECW. And this reminds me of the story with Taz and RVD. If you ever listen to the shoot interviews about from RVD to Taz talking about the TV championship, and he had someone, whoever developed the FTW championship, designed a new TV title. And he made the TV title silver, and RVD kept pretending he was forgetting it at home, wouldn't bring it on TV because he's like, I'm not wearing a silver championship, and told Heyman that it's made, because I think there was an insecurity back to how the ECW title is being booked in 95, and that continued all through ECW.
Yeah.
The TV title was more important, and it always was, and that's why it main evented, and that's why people remember RVD, Jerry Lynn on pay-per-view rather than the championship matches.
100%, man. And that's the funniest thing in the world is like RVD. I could just picture him getting to the show, but fuck, man, I forgot it at home. I was, hit a little bit of the devil's lettuce, and I got, I just forgot it, man.
The RVD shoot interviews, not to go off on a tangent, are so fantastic when he does the pick a hand. So,
oh my goodness, yeah,
pick a hand. If you guys aren't familiar with the pick a hand, you guys need to watch his shoot interviews. I think it's just You Shoot is the channel. Yeah, the Shawn Michaels pick a hand.
One of the best Shawn Michaels facial impressions I think I've ever seen in my entire life. Well, kid, you're gonna go far. Like, goddamn, I love it so much.
Anyway, let's go back to the Connecticut Post story here. There's more information about it, and mostly the focus of the article was the rowdy and violent atmosphere in ECW created a stir because of misinformation in the article and confusing ECW with the political hot potato of extreme fighting that was so big in the news. So at the time, extreme fighting is not the same thing. It's banned in New York. They're not allowed to be performing. And everybody thought that ECW and Extreme Fighting, because if you're not familiar with the business, you think they're the same thing.
Yeah.
So promoter Tom Rodriguez blamed that confusion on city officials finding a reason for the club not to open. The Connecticut Commission also made a call being concerned about the show, believing it was Extreme Fighting and not pro wrestling, which they have no regulatory power over. But contrary to word elsewhere, the commission had nothing to do with the show not taking place directly and probably nothing indirectly. This is referring to the Danbury that was sold out, 400-seat nightclub, and they canceled the show because people were upset with them thinking it's Extreme Fighting, that they wouldn't be allowed to hold the show. So people were out money. They didn't get to hold the show. It was supposed to be a really fun night. But I think originally the people that came in, they said the roof for the nightclub wasn't up to city ordinances and the club still hasn't gotten permission to open, which is bullshit. They just didn't want them working that night.
It's super bullshit. And I mean, that was the downfall of having extreme in your name this early on in the game, because you let up with that UFC. People thought it was like bare knuckle boxing. They thought it was the most brutal shit you could possibly get in a squared circle. And I think that definitely took a spot away from ECW to grow a little bit more.
So ECW obviously never got to work there, and Paul Heyman just took it on the chin and said, all right, even when the club opens, because of all the problems we ran into over there, we're not going to be doing a show there at all. So Heyman in the press and with everybody that will listen said he thought the club was too small for the crowd he thinks he can draw in the city, and is planning on going back to the city in a different location over Christmas week. And the club owner told others he didn't want them any longer. So it was a he said, she said game. The plan is also to open up the Lost Battalion Hall in Queens, New York, for monthly shows starting in December. We heard about trying to do a New York version of ECW Arena. We never truly got that. But, Holiday Hell is the first Queens show, which is awesome to see. They're starting to spread their wings. And I think that's really where they should have continued to grow. And it's just on the Northeast. When they start going out into the Midwest and trying Florida. To go to New Orleans, in Florida, you should just stay Philly, New York, Jersey, man. That's what Ring of Honor did for a bit, and they thrived.
Yeah, no, and I even remember when Ring of Honor branched out and they started doing those community center fucking shows here in Chicago. It was the biggest deal in the world because you were clamoring for it. You wanted them to be there, and you would go to the field, the Windy City Field House. Goddamn, how did they forget the name? But they hosted some of the best Ring of Honor pay-per-views. I think they've hosted ECW a handful of times too. It's insane. But we eventually did get ECW in the Hammerstein Ballroom.
Yep.
Right. And that was kind of like the New York big city home base for them. I'll give them that at least.
Yeah, for sure. I'm more looking for the equivalent to the Ukrainian hall that LA is for GCW type of thing, or Showboat. Because by the time they got to Hammerstein, I feel like they were able to fill it to that's a bigger arena. Raw was hosted there. So ECW got there, but there's something special about these intimate places. Melrose Ballroom, that's where GCW runs, and very similar to what an arena the old school ECW would run as well. But, it would have been cool to have them have a spot in New York consistently where they ran monthly. But the home 2300 arena on the corner of Rittner and Swanson was their home. Wish we could have got that something in New York. That's selfish because I live over here.
Yeah. As a Chicago boy, I'm telling you, it fucking sucks. We had to go to this really shitty field house in Chicago it was basically where you went to see GCW, no bathrooms, places, suffocatingly hot in September. Yeah. It's just not what you want for a wrestling.
I just felt bad for the wrestlers. It was so hot that night. And I walked in. It was Speedball Mike Bailey coming out, not wearing any shoes, and I just oh man, this has got to suck, man. It's so hot in here. Moxley came out he just fresh off of the All Out pay-per-view. He was in there, which was so fucking cool to see.
Drenched
in sweat. All right, let's go to the December 11th, 1995 newsletter, and a 12/5 article following up that front page article in the Norfolk, Connecticut Hour stated ECW's attempts to run live shows in Connecticut could be squelched because it could be ruled illegal. So Mark Schriffen is the commissioner of the State Department of Consumer Protection, said on 12/4 that he didn't believe the ECW style of wrestling is permitted by state law. And I quote, he said, "This kind of contest is not regulated or sanctioned. This kind of contest is nothing more than elegant than a regulated brawl in the ring. A free-form kind of wrestling that involves spectators is clearly not permitted by law." He continues, "ECW doesn't sound like anything that would be permitted in Connecticut, but said he wouldn't know for sure until he examines the law more closely. And continued here. Our fans bring frying pans, cookie sheets, and car fenders and hand them over to wrestlers. This is Paul Heyman. No one's going to accept a tire iron. Heyman said fewer competitors are injured in ECW matches than in pro boxing matches. And we got a state representative from Connecticut, Alex Knopp, and John Burns, who they head the boxing division of the Department of Consumer Protection, plan to introduce a bill prohibiting UFC-type events when legislature reconvenes, as well as they clarify state statutes that may already ban activities, as well as ECW. This issue continues to crop up. UFC was just able to run Brooklyn as of like 7 years ago, which is recent history.
No, but absolutely. Chicago, same thing. I mean, within the last 10, 15 years, it was not happening here.
This seems like a very, and it's a weird comparison, and just follow me here for a second. It reminds you of Big Tobacco going after vaping and going after that because they're the established entity that's always been there. Boxing's allowed. People get these head injuries. We know everything that goes into boxing where people's lives are permanently damaged from the head injuries that they get from boxing, but that's okay because it's been around for hundreds of years. But because UFC and ECW are newer types of violence that make people uncomfortable, they want to be outlawed. And that's similar to like the vaping stuff. Like Big Tobacco doesn't want vaping to exist because of that reason. They're probably one better than the last. Why are cigarettes allowed if you're going to allow vaping?
100%. I mean, you could even throw this out to Wednesday nights now. I mean, you got slap fights going on after fucking AEW, and it's like legit concussion watching compared to like very safe in-ring work, and it's just asinine. And I mean, the audience has spoken. They're very upset with them putting this slap battle bullshit on, but I mean, it's the same thing. It's just like, why allow one, not the other? It doesn't make any sense. Big Tobacco, same thing. ECW, very, very safe compared to boxing. I agree with Paul Heyman's statement on that. I think that these guys, I mean, we've seen Raven and Tommy Dreamer tear up the arena here this week, and it was amazing. I don't think that I think the worst case scenario that came out of it was Tommy Dreamer being blown up after giving so many goddamn DDTs. You can see it in his face. He hits the mat. He's like, God damn it, I gotta get up again. Like, but like, it's not boxing. It's not hardcore brawling as people. It's just a spectacle of a work sport. I think it's great.
So that just another comparison you can make is years ago when Uber was taking off and Lyft were taking off, you had like the taxi unions getting together and saying they're not fair to the market, and they just don't want them stealing their customers. And when you have state representatives heading athletic commissions, that's when things get muddied, and people are probably padding pockets, of course, and you're having people in each other's ears. So it's a double standard. Obviously, things work out. UFC is allowed to run certain places, but it took years, and I'm sure there'll be some new event that won't be allowed to run, and UFC will get the pass because they're UFC. They've been around making millions of dollars for how many years? It's cyclical.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we could even bring up GCW at the Hammerstein. I mean, how much they had to change their aesthetic to get there. I mean, they had mats on the floor, they had barricades. This is not GCW we know and love. It was very different, but it's those commissions really got them in put everybody in a corner that's trying to do something different, and it's a damn shame.
So the Heavenly Bodies debuted doing a run-in attack in Public Enemy after a Public Enemy versus the Dudley match on 12/1 in Reading, Pennsylvania. We also had ECW's debut in Queens coming up at Lost Battalion on 12/29 with Sabu versus Cactus Jack in a death match. Sandman versus Steve Austin. Tommy Dreamer versus Raven. So big card in Queens, New York. Some good stuff. And we're going to be back on Prime Sports Network on 1/1 and back on American Independent Network on Tuesday. So all good stuff coming on here. We are also having Cactus Jack did more incredible interviews, according to Meltzer. Every time he's in the newsletter, we hear him talking about amazing interviews. So if you guys get the chance to see Cactus Jack 1995 on the mic, fantastic.
Unbelievable. One of the reasons why I'm the biggest Foley mark of all time.
100%. And we're going to go through the newsletter for December 18th here. USWA right now, they're trying to adopt more of an ECW style in an attempt to get fans back. On the 12/4 show in the main event, Wolfie D pile drove downtown Bruno through a table, and he showed up on TV on 12/9 in a wheelchair. All that means is that the influence of ECW is spreading across even promotions that are more on the traditional basis. They're willing to try things. We saw AAA and Conan trying their best to make an ECW shock value type of show. USWA is trying to do the same thing. So the ECW surge is going to make its way all the way to WWF, which is going to carry them in the Monday Night War and win them the war eventually.
100%. And like, I mean, you even watch WCW's attempt at it and never really successfully took off. I think WWF really capitalized on what was going on with it. And we'll discuss more of it next season right here at the Turnbuckle Tavern. But I mean, it really mean it. Like, I think Vince knew what the fuck he was taking away from ECW and making it mainstream. And he did a great job with it, man.
We get official word that Steve Austin is also likely to be leaving for WWF. There's been mentions of him going to All Japan. We know he's not going back to WCW. Heyman's trying to keep him for the final program. But yeah, it looks like he's going to WWF, and Meltzer was on top of it pretty quickly. So we're not going to get Steve Austin finishing the program in the main event. They had a lot of plans for him to continue that program with Sandman and Mikey with the ECW title on the line. Not going to happen, but for what Steve Austin gave us in this short period of time, it was very memorable.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, it really solidified the Steve Austin character in and outside of the ring and made you want to see more of him.
So we also had the future of using Mexicans in the wrestlers is questionable because WCW is making a play to get a working agreement with AAA since Conan, who's the AAA international liaison, was promised a good spot in WCW. That's a huge piece of the newsletter that was just thrown in there as a one-off sentence. We do know, because Conan, as we mentioned before in the newsletter, he's a talented dude. We enjoyed him in WCW 1996. But don't think for a second that part of his appeal is the fact that he's the liaison to get these other Mexican luchadors over here and working in whatever promotion he's associated with. And losing Conan is not just losing Conan. That means you're losing potentially Rey Mysterio Jr., Psychosis, La Parca, eventually Juventud Guerrera. Like, those guys all followed where Conan went. And that sucks for whoever's not getting them because those dudes are so talented.
100%.
All right, so it is expected to start on 1/5. ECW arena tickets are going to be raised from $15 to $25 and $18 to $30, depending on where you're sitting. There is some complaining about the high prices, but Meltzer said you have to realize that it isn't as if these groups are making huge profits and gouging the fans. They're in a constant fight just for survival. And for those that are backing them, they need to understand the realities of the wrestling business in 1996 that presented at anything but a bare bones level, that the tickets need to be high or the group won't last very long. So that's true, man. We talk about ECW. Yeah. They're making money on tapes and T-shirts. They need to get something at the gate.
100%. I mean, look at inflation. You want to go to a concert, it's not going to cost you any cheaper than like $200 nowadays. Somebody's got to be making some goddamn money.
100%. I mean, there's a lot to be said about the money, and it's expensive. Don't get me wrong. My biggest gripe with those things are the fees that we're seeing. And I'm at ECW, you buy them at the door. You're not dealing with Ticketmaster fees. That's the same shit. You buy tickets for any event now, you have to pay whatever, $25 in goddamn fees, which is annoying.
Yeah. we're just feeding Sabu and Vader, man. We're not trying to hurt anybody.
All we want is Ubers, vapes, and ECW. Can we just get those things? Come on.
God damn it.
All right. December 26th is our last newsletter of the year. And this is a really memorable moment of wrestling. The Wild Nitro versus Raw Monday Night War produced one of the most amazing, memorable moments when Alundra Blaze came onto Nitro with the WWF Women's Championship and threw it into garbage can. She's calling herself Medusa, saying she's always been Medusa. So this is where the big boys play and also where the big girls play. We don't need to get into the WCW moment, but just building context about everybody's seen that clip. Just know this is happening on the other side. Huge, huge moment where testing the limit. This isn't like extreme, but this is also stepping out of what's the normal wrestling, and WCW kind of touching base with that as well. That's their first glimpse into maybe being a little bit more of an edgy product.
Yeah, this was WCW Shane Douglas moment. And I really mean that. Like, this was, the fat guy, Dusty Rhodes, he's spitting on the title, throwing it on the ground. She did a great job with it. And it's still one of the most played clips, most memorable moments that has happened on WCW television. It was huge. Medusa really knew what the fuck she was doing.
So we had the In Your House pay-per-view. There were some people backstage, most notably Steve Austin. who debuted at the Raw tapings as the ringmaster and was giving the $1 million belt using a sleeper as a finisher. And they said in a funny moment, he started doing jumping jacks while wearing the belt, and the belt fell off of him. So Steve Austin, pretty quick, man, overnight, boom, there he is. He debuts, and he's on Raw as the ringmaster. I can't imagine he's enamored with the ringmaster gimmick, but I'm sure he's just happy to have a consistent booking after things ended poorly in WCW.
100%, and a good paycheck too on top of it. And we obviously see where Stone Cold goes from, this moment here. It's huge. I'm super pumped. Obviously, we hear it a lot from anybody that joins WWF, WWE. They get their foot in the door. Vince has got some fucking wacky ass idea. Like, you're gonna be the crypto freezer. That's what you're gonna do. You're gonna come out with a refrigerator. And he's like, no, I just want to be mankind and wear a mask. Like, can we not do that? I'm like, all right, pal. Like, let's see how it works. So, yeah, good to see Austin finally get into the doors there. Obviously, we see that it's going to change wrestling for all we know in forever. I mean, fuck. So, yeah, big moment there.
So the WWF's In Your House pay-per-view is memorable. I mentioned before opening, and maybe some people are going to hate on me for the comments saying Diesel was the low point, but you can look at something like this. Meltzer talks about this event in your house from Hershey, Pennsylvania, again, in ECW's backyard. So people that are there are probably also consuming the ECW product, so that's in their mind. Meltzer said, one bad match after another, one bad segment after another, a total lack of crowd heat. It seemed like one was watching a dying company, like the AWA at the end, desperately throwing a bad angle and bad character that you knew wasn't going to get over and just hoping something would stick. Going to the main event, the show was in the toilet and was more memorable because the WWF, for whatever reason, decided against confiscating signs before the show. Some of the goddamn signs in this are amazing. So, although a woman during the show did confiscate 2 signs during the early part of the main event, a Hogan Rules and the Bret Hart Family Disgrace sign, 2 minutes later, she returned, gave the fans their signs back. And she said, in the spirit of Christmas, here are your signs back. The ECW fans pretty much stole the show with poster after poster right in the camera ring during the entire show. So there are some other things here and some chants and video and some of the signs we have here during the main event. Great main event, by the way. Like, the card sucked, but the main event didn't disappoint. Yeah. It's Bret Hart versus Davey Boy Smith. Love those two. Great match. We got a lot of blood from Bret Hart, which is rare. So this is some of the signs that we had. And the ECW don't think this was a coincidence. They're in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and there's blood in this match. So Hart's blood did cause the ECW arena-like reaction of he's hardcore. Finish of the show complete with the post-show face-off with Undertaker and Diesel was so good, according to Meltzer, that I almost felt guilty giving a show with a main event that good a thumbs down. So some of the signs visible. Smoky Mountain Wrestling, rest in peace, 1991 to 1995. 911, Wear Hardcore. ECW, Bert Hart, Marty Must Die, Gangsta's Rule, Mikey Rules, Hogan, Oz, Diesel Sucks, Hello ECW fans, Read the Lariat, and many more. There were attempts to get ECW chants going that were noticeable but not overwhelming on TV until the early moments of the main event when the chant came off as really strong. I fucking love all those signs.
Yeah.
Hello ECW fans. And if you guys are watching the event, and I went back, there's so many of them visible on TV. It's so fantastic.
My favorite is Oz. I mean, that is the most smart marquee shit, and I love it. So damn good. Read the Lariat, damn it. I love it.
So the only match announced for the 1-5 show is Sandman versus Conan for the ECW title, which will be Conan's final ECW appearance before going to WCW. Heyman and Conan talked with Conan agreeing to continue to send AAA talent to ECW with Ray Mysterio Jr. appearing in a 6-man tag on the same show. Not, again, strategic placement of his going away match. Don't think they're not remembering. You have to treat Conan nicely because he has connections with all these other guys. Yeah, we'll give you a title shot on the way out. We'll give you a goodbye. Just Rey Mysterio, Psychosis, La Parca, Juventud Guerrero. Please let them continue to come here.
Yeah, big Penelope, man, without money. It was good intentions.
So Steve Austin did an unbelievable interview on the 12-19 show saying he spent 4 years waiting for a world title shot and then got in 2 weeks and lost them both. And he admitted he came to ECW out of shape, that he didn't rehab his arm, and said he was smart. He'd call up Eric Bischoff and tell him he deserved to win Announcer of the Year and kiss his ass to get his job back so he could sit around and get a big paycheck. He said he was disgusted with his career over the past 4 years. So obviously all this stuff is tape. We're going to get Austin after, so he's going to be in 2 places at once. He's in ECW. He's also in WWF at the same time. ECW has a back catalog of things they're just getting under their belt as far as TV goes. So when he's on hardcore TV, he's also going to be on Raw.
Yeah.
So interesting enough. And Steve Austin, people can't dismiss what ECW did for Austin's confidence and help develop his new character, because we see so many windows into what Stone Cold was here.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, even from the startup, from him dressed in the yellow, doing the Hogan impression, it was him getting a lot of his angst out, getting a lot of the chip off his shoulder out there, and really developing his character. And that's what made Stone Cold such a big deal. I mean, we could watch Kevin Owens do stunners all day, but he is not no Stone Cold Steve Austin, right? And that's because we fell in love with the business side of things, the character of Stone Cold. So that it really worked out for him, and it was awesome. Love it, man.
So the last thing in the newsletter is most expect the Christmas week show in Queens, New York to draw the largest crowd in the history of ECW. Heyman's trying to get celebrities to attend. Whole bunch of stuff going on here, but things are looking up for ECW. While there's some troubling times, we got word of bounced checks, not in these newsletters, but in the past, talent leaving. How I describe this, and the interview I'm doing with Sam Hain, you guys check it out. This is the Tavern, directly following this. The Dracula Kid, awesome, from Remarkable Wrestling. Him and I were discussing ECW because he's a huge fan of this time of wrestling and the Attitude Era and all that went into it.
Yeah,
we talked about ECW as a car with all its parts in a really bad neighborhood, and the wheels wind up on cinder blocks over and over again. Paul Heyman continues to replace all the parts as it gets stolen, gets it back on the road, and then leaves it out overnight. More wheels are taken off. Maybe the doors are taken off, but got to put them back on. You're losing Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, Psychosis, Rey Mysterio, Conan, Steve Austin. Yeah. And it's a testament to what Paul Heyman's able to do to keep people entertained and feel sort of tied to a product that is losing guys so rapidly. Like, there's a fine line between a feeder system and being a promotion that people can rely on. And there's also this kinship that fans feel with ECW. So I've never seen it before where a guy that worked ECW at any point of their life, they have that connection with them for the rest of their life. And it's almost like when they go over somewhere else, you watch them as an ECW fan, like they're representing the promotion they left. It's something that will never be seen again in wrestling. Yeah,
that was very beautifully put. I think that still stands true. I mean, every time Too Cold Scorpio comes out on GCW, I'm not going like, oh, that's Flash Funk, man. No, that's fucking Too Cold Scorpio from, ECW. Like, it's the same thing. You watch Sabu wrestle. I mean, every time Sabu and RVD were booked in TNA, you weren't watching them as outside, competitors. You're watching them with the lore of what ECW was. And I think that stands true to every single talent that went in and out of that business. Crazy, man.
Yeah, and it's just like even a small amount of time. Like Steve Austin's a different character here because he's a different guy when he becomes Stone Cold. But any guy who's ever stepped foot in that ECW arena and worked in front of those fans feels like they're forever part of the fabric of what they did there. Good, bad, or indifferent, it became legend. So you mentioned guys that worked there for a year, 2 years. They've done other things. They worked in Japan. They went overseas to Mexico, went overseas to Japan, worked in Mexico. They have these places where they call home, but ECW forever will be tied to them. And you see these reunions that happen at the ECW arena, and people forever are chanting ECW when they see blood or they have weapons. Like, the impact is immense, man. Like, not to eulogize them in a way. We even saw them on Raw. Like, ECW was being chanted because they were in Philly for the 30th anniversary of Raw. Paul Heyman did a beautiful job of dismissing it, saying, like, ECW was dead, just like I wish Sami Zayn was dead. But you see it still, man. Like, you see ECW chants in 2023. It's alive and well in Wells Fargo Arena, where people are, like, there to watch the Legends of Raw. And Roman Reigns, the biggest star in wrestling's in the ring. They have the hottest storyline in the ring. And guess what they're chanting? ECW.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I will stand to this mindset forever. Mick Foley would not have gotten over if it wasn't for ECW. 100%. I don't think Cactus Jack, Chainsaw Charlie, you think that segment would have been anything if it wasn't for ECW? I mean, Chainsaw Charlie was the shittiest gimmick I think put on anybody ever. And I mean that. Like, and it was cool because we all knew it was Terry Funk, but I mean, none of that would have mattered without ECW. I think it would have fell to the wayside. Nobody would have gave a shit. And Yeah, it goes for every single person, and I love the fact that the crowd was very pro ECW this past week on the 30th anniversary of Monday Night Raw. It was good, and we didn't need a big amount of people there. We didn't get McFoley's, we didn't get anything like that. But Paul Heyman comes out, man. That's Willie in God Country.
That's very, 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 very true. And the best transition that we could have to 1998 WWF is the fact we're going to get that Rumble that you mentioned with Chainsaw Charlie and Cactus Jack having that moment in the ring. And a lot of WWF 1998 is ECW 1995
Heavy.
with a lot of polish on it. Like there's a lot of familiar faces we're going to see. There's a lot of people that will look 3 years older, but there's going to be a lot of programming that we find familiar, shock value with a little bit more of a eye for production than ECW had. It really becomes ECW with polish and a little bit more pizzazz, but it's still grungy, man. Like WWF 1990 is grungy as shit, just like ECW was. And that's my wrestling, dude. I like when it's
in
grungy.
The best way possible. Absolutely.
All right, let's get into the grungy get your fix. Let's talk about hardcore TV. Let's get into all the stuff. We got a lot to break down for you. This is our last get your fix of ECW, so let's do it with spirit.
God damn, Bell.
Man, we got some good stuff to go through here. And a lot of the matches we have on Hardcore TV, they're just recaps of the events we've seen. So let's start with the 11/21/95 Hardcore TV. We got fully November to remember recaps. All matches are from there. You guys can check out the Sandman and Too Cold Scorpio defeating Public Enemy to retain their tag titles. Mikey Whipwreck defeated Steve Austin to retain his title. And the last match on the card was Sabu's re-debut against Hack Myers. That's all you need to know from that November to remember recap show. And this is a good opportunity for people that didn't watch it, that didn't receive their tape in the mail because of the distribution issues on their merchandise side. So they were able to check it out on TV.
Gotta love it, man. Tommy Dreamer was eating lunch. He didn't get the tapes out in the mail too quick.
Oh, that was today? My bad.
Yeah.
All right, ECW 11/28/95, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We had another two matches from November to remember. Conan defeated Jason Knight. Bill Alfonso defeated Todd Gordon. There's some angle notes here. We have footage of Mikey wrestling Rey Mysterio, which has to be a great match. It's only highlights of this match. Want to find the full compilation of this match and be able to enjoy it. Mikey Whipwreck versus Rey Mysterio, two great guys from different backgrounds and great style. Fantastic.
Yeah, I could only imagine that match being like top tier, fucking 5-star shit. I would love to see the thing in its entirety.
We had Taz being interviewed by Joey Styles, and he tells everybody he isn't someone that anyone should be looking up to. He doesn't want to be a role model. Taz challenges Styles to be a man and insult him, but Joey walks away. This is just a bully Taz, which is fantastic. Kind of touching into going back to RVD shoot interviews. He talks about Taz being a bully in real life. So it's like it's him turned up to 1,000.
Go fuck yourself, pal.
The other part here, Cactus Jack really pulling up the WCW gimmick, has his hair pulled back, sides of his face shaved, and he said, I won't be at the next show, and I asked for a favor of the fans not to encourage the nice, sensitive kid, Tommy Dreamer, to be hardcore. He said moments later, Cactus just showing his missing ear and missing teeth, screaming that he is hardcore. So he kind of going back to what people want to see from him. But the heel run from Cactus with this, forgive me, Uncle Eric, and the Dungeon of Doom shirts, good shit from Cactus Jack. Awesome 100%. Stuff.
Yeah, that might have been one of ECW's biggest things that they had, was that whole Cactus Jack promo was so damn believable, so good. I love that he would whisper and be, I'm not hardcore, but you know what? You guys push me, and I'm gonna be hardcore. I fucking love Foley.
You also had a Bubba Ray segment with Beulah McGillicuddy. He had tried a pickup line. He said we should arrange the ABCs by moving you and I together, and apparently that worked. They walked off together, which is an interesting segment.
I love it. Bubba hitting on anybody is a spectacle in its own, man. That should have been on the pay-per-view.
They're also hyping up the Ultimate Jeopardy match, which is coming up. It's their War Games. This is their version. They can't call it War Games, but everybody in the match that's in there will have some issues, a lot of tag teams. So we'll get into the Ultimate Jeopardy match that happens You know, everybody tries their hand at War Games. Nobody quite did it as well as WCW did originally, but
Yeah.
you know, we've seen Impact do it. We've seen MLW do it. We've seen, you know, WWE recently do it. No one really did it like WCW did because you had the great mind of Dusty originally behind it. That's the dude booking it. So when he's not there, it's hard to really have that same spirit.
100%. I mean, even AEW, when they do Blood and Guts, it's got more of a Hell in a Cell feel to it. Not, you know, not fully akin to what a War Games was, but they do a great job. I love it. I'm here for anybody trying to make it happen.
Yeah, and I mean, quick shill here. We got a kind of a War Games match. Steel Cage Warzone, Remarkable Wrestling will be ring announcing for it February 24th. So 5-on-5, absolute chaos. So I'll hype that up as you guys check out my Instagram. Better than the best.
Can't wait to see it. Yeah,
Remarkable Wrestling. It's gonna be a great night of wrestling. Anyway,
hell yeah.
ECW presents Hardcore TV 12/5/95 from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We had Terry Funk and Tommy Dreamer defeating Raven and Cactus Jack. November to Remember recap. We also get Public Enemy defeating Bubba Ray Dudley and Dances with Dudley. Some segments and angles going down here. We got a Dreamer and Funk promo. Funk puts over Dreamer for being a great kid and talks about him being hardcore, giving him a little bit of rub. They're really talking about Funk potentially leaving and retiring. I think they really probably believed it. Maybe Funk actually believed it as well, but we know that's not actually true.
I mean, we watched Beyond the Mat. I went and seen it in theaters. I literally did. I thought Terry Funk was done, man, but like we've echoed so many times. I mean, 20 fucking years later from where we're at here, he's still running his shit, man. It's insane. The longevity that man had and the quality behind his presence. You gotta give it up for the Funker, man.
That's Terry Funk. We love you, buddy. So Public Enemy and the Dudley match that is airing on here is from a Maryland show that has fan cam footage. So we've talked about this in the past. It's supposed to look like fans filming it, but I'm sure it's an ECW staff member filming it. But it's supposed to look like, you know, handheld camera. So it kind of sucks to watch. It's an interesting theory for these live show events to have footage of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't really hit with me. Maybe in 95 it would have hit differently because you're not so spoiled with HD television and not being able to see faces. But yeah, this is a little bit of a highlight. It was cool. Let me just say, for Hardcore TV to have original content that no one has seen. So I'll start with that. I liked it.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think the fan cam was heavily run by RF Video, Rob Feinstein, hence why he got his choke slam gimmick a little earlier in the year this year. But yeah, I mean, it's cool to see it. It's a unique perspective, especially when they air it. You know what I mean? Like you're seeing something like nobody's ever seen before. This guy snuck a video camera into the arena and you're watching it live now.
Well, the reason they really show this is the Heavenly Bodies making their debut because they attacked the Pitbulls and Public Enemy with steel chairs. Tommy Dreamer got involved. This was because they need to set up Heavenly Bodies being a part of that Ravens team for the Ultimate Jeopardy match. So they had to show it on Hardcore TV to get people to be excited for the match. And understand, like, when they turn on and maybe they show up the live event, like, why the hell are the Heavenly Bodies from WWF here in ECW? At least they'll get some more traction for people to understand they're on the roster now.
100%.
So the thing with Heavenly Bodies, them debuting, is their body work in Smoky Mountain Wrestling was actually really, really good. So they fit pretty well into what ECW is doing. I know everyone remembers them as the Heavenly Bodies from WWF. It's not the same tag team that's been in SMW. They got a little bit watered down, as everybody does in 1995 WWF. But the bridging of the gap from ECW from Smoky Mountain Wrestling to ECW is as we've seen with the Gangsters, it's a pretty easy transition that, even though it's not as hardcore, it has the same type of aesthetic where guys kind of slide right in.
Yeah, 100%, man.
All right, let's go to the 12/9 show, December to Dismember. A lot going on here. This is honestly a really good event. And like I mentioned before, it wasn't for us to sit here and let it be the showcase show. I thought Holiday Hell and December to Dismember go hand in hand because of the fact that they were good shows, but nothing really memorable happened on their own. Like if we did one episode with just one or the other, it felt like we wouldn't have enough to give you, which is why we're sitting here doing them together.
Yeah. Got it.
All right. So we go with the opening match here, the Dudley brothers, which let's go through them. Bubba Ray Dudley and Dancing with Dudley. They also have Big Dick Dudley, Chubby Dudley, and Sign Guy Dudley in their corner. They defeated the Bad Crew, Dog and Rose with Damian Kane and Lady Alexandra. So this was a squash match. Dudley's get the win here. Big pushes. The highlight for me here is that Bubba Dudley is clearly the star in the making here. He's getting opportunities on the microphone. He's getting over with the fans in a very quick amount of time.
Yeah, and I believe it's so cool to see Sign Guy Dudley in this young age. I mean, he grows up to be not only one of the most influential people in wrestling, but I mean, the guy runs part of Circus Delay. I mean, he's a fucking mine for events production, all that shit. I got to work, lucky enough to work with the one and only Sign Guy Dudley,
Oh,
Lou
wow,
D'Angeli.
fantastic.
Yeah, so awesome, man. Good friends with Billy Corgan, so it was butter in the making. But he's such a wonderful dude, and the success that he got outside of the wrestling world makes me even happier.
That's awesome, man. That's a great story. I didn't know that you worked with him. I know you worked with Raven, so that's a really, really cool story. And Sign Guy Dudley here, this is like the introduction for people to understand who he is. And he's a young guy here. It's a really
very young guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still selling Dudley glasses and 8x10s on his Facebook page.
Wow,
So
why not, dude? Why not?
Like, hit him up, man. Like,
our next match here, we have Taz with Bill Alfonso in his corner, which is a great combo, by the way, defeating El Puerto Ricano by submission. Again, another squash match here. Taz chokes him out. Taz mission debut. This is like, they didn't call it the Taz mission, but this is a choke. Like, this is sort of the Taz suplexes and chokes, bro. That's what Taz is, and he destroys a Puerto Ricano.
Yeah, I hear Taz saying it's suplexes and chokes, bro. That's what I am. That's what I'm doing, brother. Hook does the same shit. It's what we do.
Vapes, Ubers, ECW,
Vapes, Ubers, chokeholds, and fucking suplexes. That's what Taz is all about.
That's just the name of the episode. We're not even, it's not shot nostalgia, anything.
This is awesome. Vapes, Ubers, and fucking chokehold.
All right, we got Hack Myers defeating Bruiser Mastino by pinfall. This was another quick match, 6 minutes or so. Hack Myers mini push, getting his win back after losing to Sabu. They fucking love Hack Myers, man. They really
do,
put
man.
some spotlight on him.
Even when I was watching the show tonight, I was like, what the fuck are they putting him out there for so much? But good for him, man. I'm glad he made some money while he was out there doing his thing.
All right, so we have the Eliminators, Saturn and Cronus, defeating the Pitbulls, number 1 and number 2, by pinfall. I was happy to see the Pitbulls getting the win here. This is a rematch from November to Remember. And this was the first of 3 matches that would determine the advantage in the main event. So this first match here was, obviously, we know the heels for War Games need to have the advantage, but we get the Eliminators getting the win. They pin Pitbull 2, a nice little match. I love Saturn and Cronus, and they're finally, like, when they first came in, they were losing, which I was like, I thought the Eliminators were one of the better tag teams and better book tag teams in ECW history. Yeah. Now we're starting to finally see it. They're going to be involved in the main event. They feel like a big deal, and it took a couple months to get there.
They're taking off. It's good. I mean, one of the best tag teams to step into the damn ring, and it's good to kind of watch that happen in front of our very eyes. Love it, man.
So we have Raven with Beulah McGillicuddy defeating Tommy Dreamer by TKO. So this is the 5th match of the night between Raven and Dreamer, and a continuation of their long feud. We've discussed it at nauseum, and it's a great feud to talk about. And this is another notch in that storytelling belt. This is the second of 3 matches that would determine the advantage in the main event. So I do enjoy that I love when there's full story that weaves through a whole show, similar to like WWF Survivor Series 1998, where the whole night is a whole one-night tournament. I love it in Royal Rumble shows. You go back to Royal Rumble 2003, where like Lesnar has to win the opening match to get in the Rumble, or WrestleMania 30. Daniel Bryan has to beat Triple H to get in the main event. I love when things get tied together, and that makes these matches feel important.
Yeah, very, very, it adds a very, very deep, meaningful feeling to the whole show, and I love that. I wish people would do that more often. I wish we'd see more one-night tournaments, one-night spectacles. I think we deserve it. I think wrestling could do better. God damn it. Come on.
So Raven won in about 9 minutes. He hit Dreamer with a beer bottle. So now that Raven, the Eliminators, won their matches, their team was granted the advantage in the main event. So the heels automatically have the main event. I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen a War Games match where the faces had the advantage. Maybe it was this last one, because you consider the Bloodline kind of faces, right?
Yeah, it was a mixed bag. It's a hard sell, you know. Like how can you boo Stone Cold when he's most over, but he's doing shady shit? Like he was still good when he was on the corporate Stone Cold side of things, and same thing with Bloodline. Like they're these heelish group, but they're still face and they're over as fuck, and it's a weird vibe,
Yeah, because the whole point of the whole War Games match is to build the heat and get the face in peril where they're so beat down that they're desperate for a guy to come back in. So yeah, I mean, even though it's predictable, I know the Chads always say it. Sometimes predictable is not bad, and that's the case with War Games. Don't change the model of what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Let's not sit here and like reinvent the wheel. It's like War Games is meant to put the faces in danger, and the bad guys have their time to beat up guys 3-on-2 and 2-on-1, and then eventually 4-on-3 and 5-on-4 until it evens up. That's the beauty of War Games.
Yeah, but War Games is booked like a beautiful MCU movie, like the good guys get beat down so much, and Iron Man's got to come back and do the snap and fuck over everybody. Like that's wrestling in a nutshell, man. The goods got to take the grunt of it, so the evil could prevail, and then the good comes back and takes over the evil. It's pure storytelling, 100%.
God damn it! And like this next match wasn't pure storytelling; it's just a singles bout here. JT Smith defeating Tony Stetson by pinfall. Not much to talk about here. Just a match that felt like it was part of the card. About 5 minutes, so not great. Yeah. JT Smith got the win here.
It was a good who gives a shit match.
Yeah.
Chip break. Go get your chips.
The next match here, we have Sandman taking on Mikey Whipwreck and Steve Austin with the championship on the line. So Mikey Whipwreck is the defending champion, defending his title in a 3-way dance. Funny enough, Whipwreck was the first guy eliminated, so everybody knew we were going to get a new champion. And this is sort of a formula we've seen in the past. I think when Taz was leaving ECW, if you remember this moment, with Masato Tanaka and Mike Awesome, they pinned Taz pretty quickly after everybody knew Taz was leaving, so he's getting booed mercilessly, and he gets pinned. But there's some excitement when you see the defending champion in an elimination match get pinned, and that happened here. People cheered Mikey getting pinned here, which I had a question for you. Do you think that was, people wanting Steve Austin to win or Sandman to win, or was it like they were getting some heat on Mikey?
Oh, I in retrospect, I think it was probably them wanting Steve Austin to get that rub. Mikey was doing great. I don't think Mikey was, a bit shy of being a good champion. I thought it was fantastic and super underdog story, right? But I think they were really clamoring for Steve Mania to run wild through the Extreme Championship Wrestling rafters, brother.
Well, Mikey was pinned, as I mentioned, 13 minutes in. Austin hit the stun gun, meaning Whipwreck would not leave as champion. So it came down to Sandman and Austin. And after punching Austin with brass knuckles, Sandman got the win, and he's the new ECW champion. Sandman broke his hand during the match in a shoot. But we get Sandman again as a champ, and I think we're about to hit face Sandman. Like we're about to get the Sandman that you and I are so familiar with. We had heel Sandman for a long period of time. He was champion for most of 95. So yeah, I was disappointed to see Mikey lose the title. I really was.
Me too. I love Mikey, and I think it was a weird move, but also, I mean, you got Steve Austin on his way out. It was just it was a hard spot. I guess Sandman would be the better face of the company going into the new year. I don't know what Paulie was thinking.
Our mid-match before the main event, we had the Public Enemy, Johnny Grunge and Rock Rock taking on the Heavenly Bodies that was set up on that other show. By the way, Tom Pritchard's in the corner of the Heavenly Bodies, which means Bruce is in the back. Bruce working for WWF. Bruce also scouting talent. So another kind of little inkling of who's working together and who's not. So I just like to picture Bruce Pritchard, the ECW arena. It's funny to me.
Dressed in full brother love gimmick.
Yeah.
Just I knew you would, baby.
So this match was supposed to be the third of 3 matches to determine the advantage in the main event. The Public Enemy won the match. Didn't affect it because the heels already had the advantage 2-1. So yeah, just a clean match for Public Enemy getting the win over the Heavenly Bodies. And this is sort of how they've been booking new teams where guys are coming in and losing, and it doesn't really hurt them, but similar to the Eliminators when they first came in, the Gangsters lost on their first match as well. Yeah. Heavenly Bodies following that format, they lose as well.
Yeah, I mean, me and you were flabbergasted that they brought in the Gangsters and they lost their first, their debut match. And I guess it's almost like a proving point. So you can get out there, take your loss, get over with the fans, and when you come back, you're going to be bigger and stronger than ever. I get it.
Yeah, and we have our main event here, and dude, there's so many stipulations that go into this match, and I'm going to go through them because every single competitor has something that happens if they win or lose. So first, let's go with the first team. Tommy Dreamer, Johnny Grunge and Rocco Rock, and the Pitbulls taking on Raven, the Heavenly Bodies, the Eliminators, and Stevie Richards. So the Heavenly Bodies being Jimmy Del Rey and Tom Pritchard, Saturn and Cronus being the Eliminators, and Heavenly Bodies, Jimmy Del Rey and Tom Pritchard, Johnny Grunge and Rocco Rock, Public Enemy. A lot of people in here, a lot of tag teams, but each participant had a stipulation of being implemented if they were defeated. So let's go if Raven lost. So whoever defeated him would get his valet, Beulah McGillicuddy, for a week. Tommy Dreamer, if he lost, would have his head shaved. Public Enemy, they would be forced to wrestle one another.
Yeah.
Pitbulls, if they lost, they would be forced to split up, and whoever defeated them would get their valet, Francine, for a week. The Eliminators, they would be forced to leave ECW, and their manager, Jason, would have to have his head shaved. Stevie Richards, he would be locked in a cage for 5 minutes for the members of the other team. Or with the members of the other team. And the Heavenly Bodies, all stipulations for their team would be enforced. So everything out, like, I don't know what the hell that means, but I guess everything.
So they're going to lock them in a cage, shave their heads, take their valet away. Tom Pritchard's going to be hanging out with Bruce Pritchard, working with fucking Tommy Dreamer. There's a bunch of shit going on.
I like when matches have meaning, but how could you even enforce any of this happen? Because when you're watching, I'm reading it right here on paper, but
yeah.
If you quizzed me on it, I don't think I would know exactly what the stipulations were. And I watched the goddamn event.
Dude, and you know what? I will give WWE the biggest amount of credit because I did not know that they did host a semi-elimination chambers style match for December to Dismember, ordering the new ECW pay-per-view December to Dismember. And I was like, what the fuck are they doing this for?
Interesting connection. Yeah.
So yeah, the December to Dismember of 2006, I want to say.
Yeah,
had an elimination chamber match.
Yep.
Yeah, Bobby Lashley, Test, Sabu was supposed to be in it, got eliminated. RVD was there, but very cool for them to kind of hold on to that. And I shit all over that pay-per-view, but I'm glad that they went back to that moment. It was because the Elimination Chamber was WWE's War Games for the longest time. So big fucking kudos whoever programmed that. Paul, Vince, Paul, Vince. It was great, man.
All right, so let's go through some of the highlights of the match. I won't go through all of it because, as we know, War Games or Ultimate Jeopardy is so long. So Raven's team began the match with the advantage. We saw that happen. During the match, Raven handcuffed both the Pitbulls and Public Enemy to the ring apron, leaving Dreamer alone. So Dreamer was able to rally and pin Richards. As a result of the stipulation, Richards was locked in the cage alone with the members of the opposing team for 5 minutes. However, as the Pitbulls and Public Enemy remained handcuffed, Richards was one-on-one with the injured Dreamer. So following that, Dreamer began to beat down Stevie, and Raven and his allies re-entered the cage, beat the shit out of Dreamer. Raven and his allies then attacked Dreamer and his team until Sandman came to the ring with a Singapore cane and drove them away. Almost a full face turn for Sandman here as the champion. So after announcing all of these stipulations, someone's valet is going here. With Stevie Richards just gets his head shaved. All because he wanted a haircut, by the way. They just wanted to just go to the barber, Stevie. Why do you got to put this as a stipulation?
It sounds like a very big Raven, like, mousetrap game. Like, man, you're going to get fucking, we're going to do this big match. You're going to go into this. we're all going to fight. We're going to beat the shit out of each other. And then you can get your haircut, finally.
Only thing was missing from this was like a crucifixion. There was handcuffs and weapons. Like, all you needed someone to be crucified with the barbed wire crown or something.
Yeah, get Kurt Angle out there. Let's make it happen.
I'm so offended. All right, let's go with the Hardcore TV from 12/12. See, guys, this is why we didn't just do December to Dismember by itself, because like Holiday Hell feels like the creme de la creme of ECW. We can't end on December to Dismember.
No, but a very, very interesting and good cover nonetheless.
So 12/12/95 for Philly. We get Bubba Ray and Dancing with Dudley defeating the Bad Crew and the ECW World Tag Team Champions, the Sandman, defeating ECW World Champion Mikey Whipwreck and Steve Austin. So this is happening. So this airs after the December Dismember event happened, but it was taped prior. So the titles, as you see with the TV title a few times, titles change hands. We don't, like, Scorpio was TV champion. Then we see Eddie still with the championship. It's hard to follow the lineage when things are on tape delay. And that was kind of the case here.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the 12/19/95 Hardcore TV. Taz defeating El Puerto Ricano, which we saw that match happening. at the aforementioned December to Dismember, and Public Enemy defeated the Heavenly Bodies. So more stuff here. Joey Styles did announce in the show that the ECW World Champion Sandman will defend against Steve Austin. That match doesn't happen because Steve Austin left for WWF. So what could have been?
Just a teardrop. You see the teardrop. I'm going to get tattooed just for Steve Austin and Sandman.
So Steve Austin cuts a really cool promo here and talks about how people are hearing him complain about WCW, and he runs his mouth in ECW, and that gets him 2 title shots, and he drops the ball. When Mikey pinned him, he pinned a man with one arm and hadn't rehabbed it completely. He said, "I'm still one of the greatest wrestlers ever." And Austin contemplates that he doesn't have what it takes and begs for WCW and Eric Bischoff to take him back. Austin isn't going to do that because he's better than everyone. He's disgusted with himself and will take a week off because he's the only person that will deny him of the championship. Oh. So what could have been with this Sandman and Austin? And don't think that Austin didn't take what he learned from the short period of time he worked with Sandman and ECW.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he took a lot of his character.
No, 100%. And like, I think this would have been one of the biggest programs in pro wrestling had it happened. I really do. I think Austin was on the cups of becoming what he was in WWF. And if it would have struck here, I think it still would have just been as impactful, if not more impactful, not just for ECW, but for wrestling in general. I love this promo. I've seen this promo several times. I don't have what it takes to be here in ECW. I got to call Uncle Eric. I got to beg for my goddamn job back. Oh, I loved it so much.
We get some more good stuff here. Bubba Ray Dudley comes out to dance with Public Enemy during their entrance, but is attacked by the Heavenly Bodies with a steel chair until Public Enemy makes the save for Bubba. The fans are smart. They recognize Public Enemy is going elsewhere. They're chanting, "Please don't go," since Public Enemy's leaving officially for WCW as of that date. Bubba Ray Dudley gets up and wants the Heavenly Bodies, which he takes care of. So we get more brawling in the ring. We get a balcony dive from Del Rey, elbow dropping Rocco Rock off the balcony. Rocco Rock backdrops Del Rey to counter a pile driver. A lot of good shit going on here. Kind of a nice little send-off for Public Enemy with some out of the ring brawling and trying to pass the torch to the Heavenly Bodies and also to the Dudleys. Like, you can see they're trying to do that.
Yeah. Crazy.
Which leads us to the 12/26, the day after Christmas, Hardcore TV, Rey Mysterio Jr. defeating Psychosis in a Mexican death match. We know that match from November to Remember. ECW World Champion, the Sandman, takes off his soft cast on his broken hand, asking if anyone thinks he cares about it. And Cactus is clean-shaven and in a house wearing a suit saying he is hardcore later on. And this is very similar to what becomes Mick Foley. He's in Santa's Village on a ride yelling he's hardcore while riding on a kid's ride. The love and affection for Christmas started at a very young age for young Mick Foley.
I love it, man. It's just this is another one of those great fucking Foley promos that happened here in ECW, and it was beautiful, man. I love this anti-hardcore Mick Foley, like, yeah, man, I'm hardcore, and then he shows up and he's riding the fucking the Whizzer, and it's just like, I'm hardcore. Great, man.
so good. And this leads us to our finale of ECW 95 from Queens, New York, 12/29/1995, 2 days away from the year being over and moving to 96. Our current champs right now, the ECW champion is Sandman. He won it back on 12/22/95 in that three-way match with Austin and Whipwreck. Our tag champs are Scorpio and Sandman, 10/28/95, and the ECW TV champ is Too Cold Scorpio himself. So all the gold residing with two guys here, and we talked about it in the show prior. I think Heyman's confident that Scorpio and Sandman are going to be here, and that's why the championships are around them, because everybody else feels uncertain. Like, we don't know where everybody else is going because Eric Bischoff and Vince McMahon, they're stealing the talent, and rightfully so. They're pillaging them, and it sucks to watch them pick them apart for reasons that they're trying to better their show. But you got to think of Heyman. He doesn't want his championship ending like the Medusa moment. Like, not that that's always on your mind, but it has to be when it happened just a month ago.
Well, listen, and that was a fresh. It wasn't like it's been done before. It wasn't like, people throw the titles out all the time. Like, it was a very big deal at the time. So that, like, Paulie's probably fucking paranoid freaking out, like, no, we're not going to do this. Scorpio, Sandman, you're going to get all the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I love it. So, I mean, a good group of guys to have your titles on, nonetheless. Too Cold Scorpio deserves so much more than what he got here, and he got a lot, man. I absolutely love it. But yeah, man, it fits the mold, and it's very bittersweet that we end it with two guys running the whole shit.
And this is ECW's debut in New York, which is a really big deal. Anytime a promotion runs in New York for the first time, and that's not just being biased because I live over here, it's a big deal. I mean, running New York is huge. Running Chicago is huge. Running LA is huge. All places. So in New York City is something that people are going to remember. And Paul Heyman comes out for us for the occasion. If you want to lead us through, Mike Belcaster.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Holiday Hell, brought to you by ECW. No, it was great. Paulie comes out, Joey's is there. Welcome to New York City. You gotta love. I love Joey Styles' enthusiasm every time you see him on the screen. But Paulie comes out, he cuts his promo. We get to see like that beautiful, beautiful shit that Paul does. The first time they're there, we get Blue Meanie and the one bad Steven Richards coming out. Interrupt Joey's beautiful, beautiful swan song towards the ECW fan. And Stevie's calling up his shit, man. He's puffing himself out. He's doing the little scrappy do thing. Like, everybody came here to see me, pal. It was great. But then they see Missy Hyatt in the crowd, and she's clamoring, being all cute and shit. Joey Styles is like, what the hell, man? So she starts making out with Stevie to get a date with Raven, and Joey's sitting there. He's like, I know Raven. Come on. Like, you gotta love the nerdiness out of Joey's character. It's so this is it, man. This is why Joey was such a fucking star, was because of moments like this, because he was just like, whatever, man, I hate this. Like, why can't I get the chick? And it was beautiful, man. And I loved it. And it was we go right into well, but not so well. It was Joel Gertner, such a babyface Joel Gertner, man. I love it. Before the neck brace, before the lyricsmith that he was, when he would come out there and talk about your moms going down on their pom-poms. Like, you gotta love. It's so cool to see all this happen. Like, Joel Gertner, Blue Meanie is just seeing all these guys kind of debut. Bubba, fucking love it, man.
And it's, I know we're looking forward to WWF 1998, but it's like the party's just getting started, but you have to leave. Everyone's like getting really drunk and you're having a good time. Music's good, food is good, and you got to leave a little bit early. You're going to another good party, like it's Super Bowl Sunday. You're on, like, you have your commitments elsewhere. You're going to good parties. Food is amazing. Feels like this would have been really awesome to continue through 96, but
we'll get there one day.
We go to a different party.
Yeah, we're not saying we're not going to come back, but we got to go have some a couple shots with Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock for a few.
Irish goodbye and a smoke outside, and we're in WWF 98.
We're vaping and Ubering, man, right into 1998.
So our opening match here is Taz taking on Koji Nakagawa. So as I mentioned before, Bill Alfonso's in the corner of Taz, which that union becomes evident that it works.
Yeah,
Fonzie eventually takes on announcing duties to be with RVD and Sabu. He finds his niche. Like, aside of being just this annoying official, I think what he really finds is a really good groove with being a really annoying manager. And he becomes awesome with the whistle and the jumping around. Guys can't get together. Fucking amazing. And his act with RVD, like, that's what drew me when I was first watching ECW as a kid, like around the time RVD was with Fonzie. To me, Fonzie was integral to RVD's success as far as being that heel.
100%, man. Same thing with Sabu, too. I mean, Sabu was rocking hot here, but once you got that pairing of Sabu, RVD, and Fonzie, like, you couldn't go wrong no matter when they came out. And this is the birth of it right here. You're looking at it. He goes from referee daddy to coming out and throwing it down for the Tasmaniac, brother. It's so good. So good.
So this match was a glorified squash. It looks like it's going to be a competitive match. Nakagawa slaps Taz right when the match starts, and you can just tell Taz is going to fucking kill him. A released German Tazplex. Nakagawa lands right on his goddamn head. Taz doesn't give up. Yeah. Taz then no-sells a dropkick and a shoulder block, and then we get a belly-to-belly suplex, head-to-arm Tazplex. Nakagawa lands on his head again. Hard-way Tazplex, Taz mission. Boom, it's over. 2 minutes and 34 seconds.
Beautiful.
quick night's work for Taz. Crowd was chanting for Sabu. So that feud that we want so badly, one of ECW's very important feuds that is streamlined through all their history, Sabu and Taz.
Yeah.
Fans are recognizing, let's get this version of it right now.
Oh, we were ready for it so early on, and it takes a little bit longer to get there. But I mean, how can you not want to see Taz versus Sabu? It was huge. I'm glad the fans were clamoring for it. Taz is so good. Did he cut his promo here? Is this later on in the night?
Later on in the night.
Okay, well, then I'll save it. I remember that the promo was fucking awesome. You really get that vicious, malicious side of Taz. Brother, it stinks is great.
All right. Hack Myers taking on JT Smith here of the FBI, by the way, JT Smith.
Yeah. Full-blooded Italian brother. He comes out. I love it. He whispers to Gertner. He's like, and he's like, sorry, he's the Italian stallion. JT Smith. And it wasn't a bad match. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't great, but it was good, man. JT Smith obviously has a plethora of talent behind him. Hack Myers, I think we're both sick of seeing Hack Myers. If he shows up in 1998 WWF and he makes us Hack Myers fans, I'm going to be pissed. But we obviously know that doesn't happen. But man, yeah, I have no love for Hack Myers. I was happy to see this match over and under 5 minutes, brother.
All right, so question for you. We're going to get Dan Severn. We're going to get Steve Blackman. We're going to get, I'm trying to think of Dr. Death, Steve Williams in 1998. I'm trying to think of some other not great mid-card acts in 1998. Would you still take them over Hack Myers from 95?
Yes, 100%. Okay. But this version of Hack Myers on this pay-per-view is the best we think we've seen him.
For sure. Yeah, he has some momentum going. And I think in time and place, he was
growing a little bit more.
Yeah.
He came out with the chains and shit this time. He was a little more cynical looking.
There's consistency too. He's there. That's almost like with GCW too. Guys that are there every single month for these shows, and GCW runs multiple times a month. Yeah. You get this familiarity with these guys, and even guys that were hated in the beginning start to become like, oh, I recognize that guy. And I feel like that's kind of the same thing for the ECW audience. Hack Myers is there every event. So good, better, and different. He's a guy we know, and he's going to get cheered.
Yeah, the fans are it's how me and you were with Public Enemy. We were like, fuck these guys. Yeah. And then we're like, we got back here and we're like, all right, we get it. How? And it's the same gimmick, man.
So our next match here with the ECW TV and the Tag Championship on the line in a singles match. This is some backyard wrestling shit. I remember back in the day when you needed a guy taping, so you couldn't have everybody wrestling at the same time. You had to defend the titles in a tag match. And we used to call it New School Old Lessings. That was our tag match where you would have two singles matches to account for the fact there was only four of us backyard wrestling, like in a makeshift ring. Someone had to be taping. That's how we would do it.
Yeah, that's great. It's fantastic.
So this right here, Scorpio is putting all his championship on the line, including his tag partner's belt. So this was a really good match. I mean, this was Mikey showcasing what he's learned over the past couple months here as a main eventer. Working with Steve Austin is evident that he's made better. And I think that's not just hyperbole. You can tell that Mikey's keeping up with Scorpio in a lot of ways. Mikey escapes a powerbomb, hits a monkey flip on Scorpio. They cut to Missy Hyatt for no reason during the match, but we get a low blow from Scorpio that builds the momentum for him, a drop suplex. And we get some awesome other spots here where Scorpio has to cheat. He's trying his best to play the heel and get Mikey to bait and get low blowed and all that stuff. So then he spits on Mikey to get him angry. Scorpio gets crotched and Mikey hits the Rana for a 2 count. Fans thought it might have been over. Scorpio then misses the Stinger Splash and gets rolled up for another 2. Fans thought that was going to be over. Then the ref bump and Scorpio accidentally splashes the ref. Super kick on Mikey. Twist and splash from Scorpio. The ref is down. 1, 2, 3. Keep counting all the way to 10. He's not up. And then we get a backbreaker and a powerbomb from Scorpio. Cactus comes in, does a run and hits the double arm on Scorpio. Crowd goes nuts. Mikey pins him for the win. 11 minutes and 53 seconds. Cactus takes his place as Mikey's tag partner. Their tag champs. People fucking love it. This was great. I love this match. Great.
Yeah, no, I absolutely loved it. Mikey and Cactus have such a good symmetry together, and it's one of those things. It's what Mick Foley does so well. Like him and Al Snow. Like you don't need anybody to be with Mick Foley. Mick Foley could be out there and be a singles competitor, but he rubs off so damn well with these people like a Mikey Whipwreck that it makes the character grow so much better. And I love every bit of it. Even when Cactus hit the clothesline on Scorpio and throws him outside of the ring, and like Mikey's like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, there's some tension for sure, and that they're building that up where like you could tell Mikey really wants to earn it based on the fact he used to be the heavyweight champion. He wants to get his wins back. So there's some hesitation here with Cactus and Mikey, which is a layered storytelling where it's not just the reunion of former tag team partners. There's Mikey's resistance of like, I didn't need your help, goddammit. I was going to win this match anyway, but now he's the TV champ. Now he's tag champs with Cactus. And, you know, they are still putting some stock in Mikey because he's the guy that they recognize, the fans love, and he works super hard for them every single time out.
Yeah, I mean, lifer for ECW. Guy sticks with them until the very end. I absolutely love Mikey Whipwreck, man.
All right, so the next match here, the Pitbulls with Francine in their corner, taking on the Eliminators. Man, Saturn with goddamn hair. Talk about a great fucking match.
Dude, awesome. Like, literally, great fucking match. As you said, there's a lot of brawling here. There's a lot of fucking great technical wrestling. I absolutely love watching Saturn at this young age. I mean, he was huge with the Eliminators, and they are a tag team not to be messed with, as they show. They get the win. It's a 20-minute match, basically. This is good goddamn ECW tag team wrestling, and I loved every minute of it, man. A lot of good spots, a lot of craziness. We even get Cactus Jack coming back out. It's insane, man. Yeah. But it was so damn good. I love these guys so much. This was like we're just getting a taste of the Eliminators right now. They go on to do so much more, and Saturn obviously becomes one of the biggest names in that era. It's just so awesome to watch these guys just kind of do their thing. Then we get Jason out there.
Yeah,
good old Jason, man. It was great. I absolutely loved it. Eliminators for the win. Long, fun, great match, man.
Yeah, and I just want to shout out Saturn's moveset too. It's so unique because he combines like the Japanese style with some, you know, the catch and technical stuff that we've seen from Malenko and Guerrero. I mean, just shout out to the double underhook tiger bomb that he hits. You know, he's all over the ring, and he press throws. He's using power. He's using speed. He is truly a one-of-a-kind wrestler that, you know, I don't know if he ever really lived up to his potential, that he could have been the headliner of any promotion he went to, and he never got that rub. He was always sort of the bridesmaid, never the bride. And that's not really fair because he was just as good as the other guys that he was working with. And to me, he was the best worker by a lot, and it was evident.
100%, man. I was always in Saturn's corner, always been a huge Saturn mark. No matter what. I mean, the guy was unbelievably talented, and I don't think he'll ever get his name in the spotlights like he deserves. I think he was fantastic. Even with the moppy gimmick, like he took that and ran it so hard to where you were like, I remember when they came out with the moppy toy. Yeah, and the Saturn, and I was like, "Fuck yeah!" Like, fine. Like, I'm so pumped this is coming up because he sold the shit out of it and made you love it, no matter what the fuck it was.
Yeah, and the total elimination finish for a tag team is epic as well. One of the best finishes in all of wrestling. Looks devastating. So, as you mentioned, this match almost goes 20 minutes, but I mean, spoiler alert, it was one of the best matches we've seen in quite some time. And this is what we've been waiting for from the Eliminators. This is what the lore is based on. This is what people remember fondly about them. And I mean, Cronus is just as good too. I mean, they are a great tandem that is very understated because they didn't have a run elsewhere. They've had a run in this bubble. You know, Saturn was one of those guys that everywhere he went, he was impressive, but I don't think he gets his flowers enough because he never was the main event guy. And I don't think that's fair, but
not fair at all, man.
Yeah. I think he could have been if someone would have just pulled the trigger because goddamn, he was epic in every way.
Yeah. I mean, easily could have been up there with Eddie and Benoit, like 100%. I think the guy was so damn good. Such a goddamn good talent, and always proved himself when he came out there. I never seen a bad Saturn match where I was like, man, this is the drizzling shits. It was always entertaining. Even his WCW run, his WWF run. I mean, going into the WWE, it was always fun to watch Saturn come out there and do his thing, man. And he was always proven to be a great talent, even with the shitty gimmick. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, you mentioned the moppy stuff, but he was cut out after knees. I mean, the radical stuff was his best presentation, but even then they never.
He was
really
the third guy.
That.
Yeah, he was never the dude. You know.
Yeah,
it's a damn shame. And him and Malenko too. I mean, Malenko, as much as we sing his praises, I don't think he ever got the professional flowers, you know,
Yeah,
nobody
no,
gave him
definitely not.
his, and he fucking well deserved. I mean, I watched Being the Elite a couple weeks ago. I mean, even they were all in an airport, and like Malenko's just in the back eating eggs. They're not even mentioning him. I'm like, fucking the Iceman is right behind, the man of 1,000 holes is right behind you guys, and you're just like, yeah, we love each other, we're family, we're the Young Bucks. So he was like, fucking Dean Malenko's right there, get him on TV, man.
Yeah, for a faction, the Radicals, for my money, are probably the 4 best workers that have ever been compiled in one group. Like, as far as technically sound workers, I can't think of another team that there's no weak spot. Everybody in the you would get 5-star matches of every single guy in that faction, and on any given night. Like, I personally, I prefer Dean Malenko. I probably rank them as far as technically matches. Like, Eddie Guerrero was so good and Benoit was so good, but Malenko to me captures my imagination. But you can't go wrong with any of them.
No, absolutely, man. And like you said, one of the best stables ever created, just not utilized to their fullest potential. Could you imagine if we would have seen like the Radicals versus Evolution?
Yeah,
like, you know, it's so much shit that would have been so good down the line, and it's a damn shame that it didn't come to fruition. It would have been so good.
I just think it's because Eddie got hurt that first night. I really think because he did the frog splash and dislocated his shoulder, and then they were sidelined, and everybody went off their separate ways. And they did their, you know, you knew how they were going to book Dean in WWF. You knew he was going to be booked as a light heavyweight champion. That was writing on the wall. Eddie and Benoit overcame a lot of the obstacles because of that. Dean never got the chance to, but if given the opportunity, I truly think Dean could have main evented a WrestleMania 2. He just never was given the chance.
Yeah. Could you imagine how much bigger that Mania would have been if it was all 4 of them, you know, doing something huge there? It would have been awesome. But I mean, nonetheless, it was still a beautiful moment. But I mean, everybody deserved it. I think I will stand by that day and night. Every single person deserved it.
Before we move on to the next match, there's one of the best episodes of Something to Wrestle. What made me fall in love with that show was the Radicals episode, and talk about signing all of them and how they were so tied and bonded together that they wanted to travel to WWF together. And it was like, there was no weak link. That's the reason why they all came together. It was like, we're not coming unless it's together. And that just speaks a lot about friendship and brotherhood and all that. So, you know, aside from everything else, that spoke to me the most. And I love their in-ring work, all of them.
Absolutely, man. I gotta go check that episode out because I'm down to hear that.
Yeah, they revisited it a second time, but the first one, I mean, you could listen to probably the second one because they compile it together. But the information is great because Bruce was very important in the process of signing them.
It's good.
All right, let's get to Raven and Dreamer here. This match goes pretty quick, 11 minutes and 36 seconds. It was really good stuff. I mean, there's always something epic in this match, like always. So. You know, we get so much passion and fire here. Tommy Dreamer seems fired up from the beginning of this match, and they're looking to top themselves. Seems like they're motivated because they're in Queens potentially. This is the debut for them. But there's a lot of goddamn DDTs. You mentioned before that he was waiting for them. I mean, there was a lot of DDTs. They spam that move. It's like you're playing SmackDown versus Raw or WWE 2K, whatever. And you put unlimited finishers, and you hit as many finishes as you want. And Raven just laid out, and Dreamer doesn't stop. So
I was winded at some point watching. Like, you seen Dreamer get up, and his face was like, "Oh fuck, I gotta go." He just does it again. God bless him.
So Raven hits a DDT for a 3 at 11:36, but the amount of DDTs that were in this match, and I didn't count them, but I'm sure it's
we should have.
Close
yeah,
to 20
I bet you there's
something.
easily 20.
Yeah,
between Dreamer and fucking Stevie Richards, Raven, like it was just nonstop. There was a moment where it was just DDT spot after DDT spot after DDT spot. Fun though.
All that was missing was like similar when Lesnar got the Suplex City gimmick over, where he talked in the ring mic and said, "Welcome to Suplex City, bitch." Who was waiting for Raven or Dream to be like, "Welcome to DDT City, bitch." Like that's what it was. It seriously was. The amount of DDTs was
probably would have gotten way over too if they did it like that.
But this was a good match, man. I love Raven and Dreamer, and I'm sure people are probably sick of this feud, but I think including Blue Meanie and Stevie into the mix with them kind of compiling, getting involved with the Meanie Salt and the super kick from Richards.
It was great.
It adds
a super kick too.
dynamic. Yeah.
Absolute beautiful super kick. Like I love that even Styles was like, you hear that super kick? It's like, hell yeah, man. You make it believability. You gotta love it, man.
So we get Bruiser Mastino defeating El Puerto Ricano. We don't really got to go into depth about this match. It's a dud. 3 minutes and 12 seconds. Total squash. The biggest thing is 911 coming out at the end. Chokeslams the shit out of Mastino. Fonzie comes out and tries to claim the chokeslam had been banned. So Todd Gordon comes out and kicks Fonzie's ass. That's great. Gets a huge pop in Queens. Taz then comes out and squares off to 911. So pretty sure this is where the Taz promo was if you'd like to speak about it.
Yeah, no. So like he literally coming out, spilling his hearts and guts out there, ends it with go fuck yourself in the most Taz in Queens way of promoing. It was a beautiful promo. And this is like kind of really builds that character behind Taz. I know we see Taz come out there and run shit in the ring, but when he gets on the mic and he's so vicious in that Pitbull way that, you know, fucking Taz is, he is a Pitbull. He's got the big chest. We were sitting, me and my wife were gawking at the size of Taz, his arms, his thighs, how massive he is, man. And like, he really was a spectacle to watch, but you add these words on top of that, and it's like the perfect package. And I love the sincerity of him when he's like, go fuck yourself. Like you feel it, man. You're like, holy shit, he is not fucking around.
So there's a segment in here with Stevie, Blue Meanie, and the Dudleys in the ring, and we get an impromptu match between Bubba and Blue Meanie. Quick match again, 1 minute and 10 seconds. Top rope splash from Bubba gets the win. But Big Dick Dudley comes in, choke slams Meanie. Weird match. I mean, I'm sure it got over nice with the fans in the building, but it feels weird transitioning from what just went on with everything else. And
100%.
2 squash matches felt very compact and not in a good way.
Yeah, this segment felt like it was taped a different day and just thrown on the shit. Like even the way it was segmented on Peacock, it was like, you know, after Taz and 911 get out of the ring, it cuts to black, shows up to this, and you're like, wait, Stevie and Meanie were just out there. They were all fucked up from the Dreamer match. They look great here. And it probably was taped earlier than the night or whatever. But again, we get Bubba with the fuck you and your Blue Meanie and sells you that love of, you know, the vulgarity adds to the love of it. It was great, man. But Bubba, so good. It was a good segment to further Bubba's character, I think.
So lead us through the next match. The ECW Championship, Sandman defending against Raven. He has the full Raven's Nest with them. Sandman has Woman with him. Not a long match, but you know, not the shortest match. Probably too long for Sandman, right?
Yeah, no, but like you echoed it earlier, and or you stated it earlier, and I want to echo your statement. We are falling in line with the Sandman that we're kind of falling in love with, that we know, that we appreciate so much. You know, Metallica coming out, chugging beer, smashing shit on his head. It wasn't a great match, but it was all over the fucking place, much as you expect from a Sandman Raven match, right? So wasn't terrible. Glad Sandman got the win. It could have been worse. It wasn't bad. We got the pile driver on Beulah from Dreamer. Dreamer came out. He was fucking people up left and right. It was that Tommy Dreamer love that you're so used to. I thought it was a fun match, man. It wasn't terrible. It was good.
You could tell that they didn't really have a plan for this match, and it was impromptu. It was supposed to be Steve Austin. You could tell that Raven's involved in other shit going on. So, and again, ECW Championship is the third from the bottom of the night. Like, and now it's not the main event, and whatever. I'm not complaining about it, but it's just obvious the ECW Championship was never going to be the focal point, and that's you know, every promotion's objective and prerogative to do what they want. But it's clear that the ECW Championship is not the important thing going on in the night.
Well, even as a fan watching this, you were already thrown off because Raven and fucking Dreamer were already out there, and they did a great, you know, wasn't the best match of the night, but it was a great match. They had a lot of feud to tell, and then you throw them into this, it was just felt off to begin with. And you said the Steve Austin piece, yeah, it was a little misplaced on the card. It was just misplaced on the show in general.
Yeah, so that leads us into the Gangsters taking on Public Enemy. And quietly, we didn't get anything in the newsletter about the Gangsters being hired back. But obviously, time heals all wounds. Paul Heyman brought them back after New Jack had everything going on with the Dudley fight, throwing him through a glass pane window. And Mustafa was arrested at that Philly motel. But they're back here. Match was 8 minutes and 26 seconds. As much as you would expect hardcore stuff, there is hardcore stuff. Chairs in the face and table stuff and stun gun, which is the first time we're seeing from New Jack, and he loves that stun gun. That gets the near fall on Rocco, and the match ends with Rocco getting a chair in the face. Mustafa gets the pin. 8 minutes and 26 seconds. Not their best effort. And it feels, again, they're trying to fit so much on this card because it's their Queen's debut. It felt akin to the GCW World versus GCW show at Hammerstein, like you mentioned. Like, they were already kind of handcuffed by the limitations of what the New York State Commission was doing. And they tried to fit too much in the card. You remember the main event, they had to get it to be like 4 minutes because they couldn't fit it. And it just like, all right, they're trying too much. They probably should have trimmed this plus a couple of other matches to really make everything that happened meaningful.
Not saying I like I don't like Hackmeyers, but he could have missed the show and nobody would have been.
Very true. All right, lead us through the main event here. Sabu versus Cactus Jack. This is the culmination of all the year of ECW. I feel like it's the perfect match to put the icing on the cake, the finishing touches on this year.
Yeah, no, awesome. Again, Foley just killing it with this anti-hardcore kind of gimmick. He comes out and he claims, I'm going to have an Olympic-style match with Sabu, and he brings out John Moore to referee the match, of all people, right? Under NCAA rules, no striking, takedowns count for points, etc. A lot of bullshit. 911 comes out. He fucking choke slams Pee-wee twice. It was fantastic. I love the fact they instate 911 as new referee. 911 is running shit, man. You got Cactus Jack and Sabu just really taking each other out left and right. A lot of good shit. Cactus is just so... Cactus and Sabu is the best pairing since peanut butter and marshmallows. I mean, you can't go fucking wrong with it. I could watch them wrestle all day long, and this was a great match. It could have been better. We ran up like 12 minutes, almost 13. It was a great match. And as you stated in our beautiful notes here, the finish was a little bit disappointing. It could have been better, but it wasn't terrible. I loved it. I enjoyed the shit out of it. I could never not watch Sabu and Cactus Jack and be like, fuck this shit.
Immediately first came to mind, I'm like, yo, DJ, play the hits. And like everything from Sabu and Cactus Jack, this was like, it was a highlight package. Double arm DDTs, air Sabu, stuff with the guardrail, timekeeper table, like, man, suicide dives. This match,
Face
like
busters.
the finish
We got it.
was weird. The only reason that the finish was weird was because the slam into the crossbody for the pin felt anticlimactic. If it would have ended with the atomic Arabian face buster originally that happened right before, maybe it gets an extra star in the match, in my opinion. But that's nitpicking because this match was fantastic. I mean, the springboard side kick with Sabu, like I mentioned, Sabu hits all the hits crisp. There's nothing that really gets fucked up at all. And there's sometimes with Sabu, the allure of him is that nothing's really polished. He does stands in the chair, jumps on the rope, flips into the crowd. And sometimes it looks messy. Sometimes it doesn't. Everything really feels good in this match. And then you also get the spot with Cactus hanging himself in the ropes. And we know that's how he lost his ear. And that's like, when I'm watching, I'm cringing a little bit knowing that's how he lost his ear in Japan against Vader.
Yeah.
But
great spot.
Maybe they knew what they were doing. I'm sure Cactus did when he was like, for sure. They're doing this so close to what. Yeah.
you gotta hold those ropes around your neck, man. No, it was great. And like a lot of good spot. Like you said, it was a fucking human highlight package. No matter what, you could have played this match and opened ECW with it with just clips of the good shit. And it would make the ECW intro. It was fantastic, man.
So like I said, yo, DJ, play the hits. Yo, DJ, play Chaser. Let's talk about our favorite part of December to Dismember and Holiday Hell.
Can't stop dancing, man.
So every week, as always, we'll pick our favorite part of December Dismember and Holiday Hell, every event of ECW. So Mike Belcaster, lead the way. We had a lot of shit to break down: newsletter, events, hardcore TVs. What was your favorite part?
You know it, man. And just for beautiful moments as it is, this was my favorite part of everything. Was just sitting here and going over this whole year of 1995 ECW with you. It was just so goddamn beautiful, and it's bittersweet that we're here at the end. It breaks my heart, but I'm so looking forward to shooting on 3 years down the line to WWF 1998. But with that being said, I do have to tie myself in a submission and pick one thing. And if it's one thing I have to pick, I'm going with Taz and Bill Alfonso. I know it's a fucking wild shot out there, but this is the birth of something very beautiful that goes on for many, many years. Absolutely love it. And Taz getting on the mic going, Hey, fuck you. You can't go wrong with that, man. Absolutely love it. But beautiful show nonetheless.
If we can get that as a drop from Chad or like included in our just, I know we're moving from ECW, but if we can like add a small drop from WCW and ECW just in our intros or outros, would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I would love it, man.
But yeah, I would say, I mean, honestly, it's probably recency because we just went over it, but Sabu and Cactus Jack was honestly
Beautiful.
my favorite part of the whole night. And it just feels like, and it's so nice that they ended on a good note, because there's been a lot of ECW shows where they had a lot of good stuff in the middle, questionable stuff in the beginning, and they end the night on a match that wasn't so good. This felt like an appropriate ending. Match of the night, clearly two great guys that represent what 1995 ECW is really about. It sucks to watch guys transition out of the promotion throughout the year.
Yeah.
And it would have been cool to have guys like Eddie and Ray and Benoit and Malenko all involved in a card like this. But, credit to Paul Heyman for continuing to muster through losing guys month after month and still somehow getting better, because ECW hasn't really hit its peak and they've lost majority of their talent in such a short period of time. And their growth is only going to get bigger. They're going to get video games. They're going to get the TNN deal. They're going to get pay-per-view. They're going to find a way to endure and grow. And eventually that balloon gets bigger and bigger and bigger and then pops because they can't handle all the air that's in it. But when ECW, the legacy is that they shine so bright and they didn't last forever. And I think you and I spoke on it in one of the episodes earlier that part of their allure and part of their legend is that they eventually evaporate in such a quick amount of time. And that's, you can point to Stone Cold's career, like 1997 to 01 is what Stone Cold brought to WWF, and then he was gone.
Yeah.
There's something said about lack of longevity and burning bright, like maximizing the years of memories. And if ECW would have continued all the way to 2015 or something like that, maybe we wouldn't look as fondly back and be like, oh, ECW is still around. They used to be good. It's just, not everybody can be Impact and Endure and like rebrand and all that. There's a blessing in disguise by going out. I know people lost their jobs and stuff, but it only strengthened their legacy and legend.
100%, man. They had that underground appeal and that cult following that lasted. I mean, as you said, until Raw 30th anniversary this week. It was a beautiful thing, man. And yeah, I'm so honored to be not only covering this with you, but just to grow up through this. It was a big deal, man. And it was awesome to kind of revisit this and relive it all. As you said, Cactus Jack and Sabu, they're two of my favorite all-time wrestlers. I mean, they are on my long list of a Mount Rushmore, but I love them to pieces, man. And they're it was such a bittersweet way to end this season of talking about two of the greatest to ever step in the ring, let alone be in ECW in general. Gotta love it, man. And as the beautiful quote says, it's better to burn out fast than the fade away or whatever the fuck it goes. But you know what I mean. ECW was one of those beautiful things. It was lightning in a bottle, and this year really proved it.
And before we close the tab, guys, lights are coming on the bar. I always think about the quote, and ECW really comes to mind when you hear it. You die two deaths. First is when you disappear and go away, and the second is when someone says your name for the last time. And I think we haven't heard the last time ECW's name is chanted in arenas for a long time. I think it's going to be continuing for years and years, well after we're gone, because that's the legacy and that's the influence that ECW has. And that alone is more powerful than gates and promotional money and TV deals. Like, their legacy is bigger than even Paul probably could imagine. That's a beautiful thing. Let's close
100%,
the tab.
Man. It's bright. It's white. The lights are on. We got to get the hell out of here, brother.
You and I are such experts. We're going to bring it exactly to the 2-hour mark, because that's the limit of being able to host it on StreamYard. Guys, stay tuned following this. I'm interviewing Sam Hain, the Dracula Kid, on a Visits the Tavern. He's following directly after this. Stay tuned. Just clicked over to the next video here. Remember, next week is episode 1 of season 3. I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah. The first episode of WF 1998. We're going to be reviewing the first 2 episodes of Raw of the year. We're going to be reviewing the Royal Rumble 1998. Obviously, the Royal Rumble 2023 is tomorrow or tonight, whatever you listen to this. Mike Belcaster, this has been a fucking blast, dude. I love doing this with you. Episode 41 of Shot Nostalgia and culmination. It just gets better and better, and I'm looking forward to the next journey with you.
100% and to leave you like we always do. I am good old Paul E. Dangerously. Stay tuned next week for 1998. Raw is War. We'll catch you on the flip side.
We love you, baby.